Hi, Art.
Hey, Nadia. Long time no see, right?
Yeah. And welcome, Xbox.
There we go.
Hopefully, Richard arrives soon. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, actually.
Yeah. For internal invites, I only have more theists lined up, so we'll keep them from getting too outnumbered.
No, I
Just
don't mind as
theists
long
for
as the
now.
conversation, as long as we stay civil.
Yeah.
I don't care if we're outnumbered or they're. I'm happy to
I,
do the
I would
conversation.
actually prefer more theists. Just
I
saying.
like the conversation. I like the problems coming up, and I like it making me think for sure.
Okay, so you brought up the children misbehaving analogy.
Did you describe what we're talking about free will and all that?
I haven't
Omniscient.
really given much of an introduction, but it's
Yes, sir.
a, I think, well-known problem, so, or well-known topic of discussion. So the description in the event should do.
Free will omniscience is period.
No, name the hangout theists own. I'm just kidding.
TSL.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Right. So
Okay.
Back to wherever you were, Richard, about the children and that, like you said.
Yes, so we're talking about, I think it's Art began by asking the question, do I believe, no, sorry, no, what was the question? Sorry, if you just re-clarify
There
the
was no
question.
point. There was no point for God asking, the children or the parents who had absolute knowledge to ask them to repent. Because they already knew there is no choice being made. The kids cannot choose anything else but to disobey.
Okay, so you're saying there's no point in giving the children any choice because you already know the outcome of that situation. So we're talking about hypothetical with parents and disobedient children. So,
And the parents are
from a
omniscient
parent's point
in
of
the
view,
scenario.
yeah, okay. So from a parent's point of view, as this omniscient parent, looking down at a child who we know is going to disobey us tomorrow morning, we know the exact time, the exact moment, and exactly what they're going to do. Now, let's say, Art's saying it's pointless to give them any choice at all, or it's pointless having choice in this hypothetical, being that we know the outcome. Well, I'm saying that I believe God is incredibly gracious, that in our lifetimes, God only knows the ending of our lifetimes, that in this hypothetical we're using with the parent and the child, that he's so gracious that he'll give the child ample opportunity to make the right decision, regardless of whether we know the child is going to make the wrong decision. So, how much do I love my children? Do I love them enough to give them one opportunity, 10 opportunities, 100, 1,000 opportunities?
With that hope or the graciousness you're saying, they you still know the next day, no matter how much hope you have that they make a different decision,
That's right.
you know that they're going to make the decision that you already know they're going to make.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is kind of pointless. I mean, especially if you say that God knows the end choice, so to speak,
Yeah.
of the children's lives. So, for example, let's say for the sake of argument that you, Richard, will die as an atheist. Okay, you will be an atheist. Okay, you will deny God and you will deny the Holy Spirit, and God knows this absolutely, for absolute fact, meaning that
Right.
this cannot be falsified. So you will necessarily die as an atheist. So is there any point at actually giving you opportunities to choose something else? Because you cannot do it. Even if God gives you a billion opportunities to choose to believe in Him, you cannot believe in Him. You cannot be saved because God already knows that in the future you will be an atheist.
I find it very hard to entertain that idea because, for many reasons, but
Yeah, I know it's a hypothetical.
saying it's hypothetically true that I was to denounce God, to denounce the Holy Spirit, to become a full-blown atheist and a disbeliever, um, I don't really know how I could I don't really know how I go forward from that because
Run the
I
scenario
don't.
as you run the scenario as you dying atheist, and you've had every opportunity to be an atheist, but it doesn't matter because God knows you're going to die atheist.
Sure.
Or however you want. If that helps you wrap your head around it.
Okay, so if God knows I'm going to die believing what I believe, or not believing in what I don't believe, or however you want to put it, does it change my choice in that matter? Well, let's listen to the question again. If God knows what I'm going to die believing or disbelieving in, right? A belief or disbelief is in whose hands? Who's making that choice? Is God forcing me to believe or forcing me to disbelieve? Does God
No,
force me at my death's door to believe or to disbelieve?
no,
If God knows it, regardless, hang on, just before you
no.
interject.
I was just agreeing with you. That was a rhetorical question. I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I just say, regardless of whether God has absolute knowledge of where I will be in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, or wherever, or how I'll die and what I'll die believing or disbelieving, makes no bends, if you like, on what my choices are. What you're actually seeing is God's allowing me to make my own choices and follow through with them. That's how I see it, anyway. Does anyone else have an opinion on that?
Oh, well, I absolutely do. Because if it follows that, sorry, if it follows that if God knows that you'll die an atheist, then you will die as an atheist because God has absolute knowledge of your future choices. And it
Yeah.
also follows that He has knowledge of absolutely all of your future choices that you will make before you die, and you cannot choose anything else but what God knows you've already chosen. So
Sure.
your future is predestined. You
And
cannot.
you know what might make a difference in kind of what all you're saying too, and might add a little perspective on it, Richard, is that from your perspective, God started all of this. He created all of this.
Yeah.
So that without that being like that's the but for. So but for God doing this, none of this other stuff would have played out.
Right.
He might not be pushing your choices around, but he started the spark that made all these choices play out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also a different kind of approach to this free will. Trying to refute free will under theism, which is that even if you have free will, even if you truly have free will, then but your free will is dependent on the environment and all the possible worlds. In all the possible worlds, people will make different choices. If you will be in a Muslim country, you're less likely to choose Christianity, right? That's correct.
Sure.
Right. And so God, by making this universe, choosing this possible world
Yeah.
instead of another one, in which there is a Muslim man in, in Saudi Arabia, he
Yeah.
influences his free will. Because if he chose a world where this man would have lived in, America, then that person would be so much more likely to become a theist and the real true theist, right?
Yeah, I think even if I was a Christian, I would have to work determinism into that because
Yeah.
I don't see another way. I think we have the illusion of it, the choice, the illusion of the free will, but if it's being set out by some ultimate being that, like Art said, this possible world is the one that we live in, this is the one that he created, then we have no other choice to do anything else.
Sure. But we're not assuming then. I hope we're not assuming that there are things which are outside of God's knowledge. Then, so all things, regardless how far and few they are between, this person in Saudi Arabia coming to knowledge of God, or choosing to not believe and put his belief elsewhere, or to walk a different walk. We're not assuming, I hope, that God doesn't know this also. That
No,
God knows all of these things.
no, he that's what we're assuming he does. We're assuming when he
Okay.
created everything, he already knew the beginning and the end. He didn't know the beginning from the end. Like, he didn't play
Yeah.
through this in a time scale. He knew it when he
Yeah.
made it, that it was
Absolutely.
everything. He's in every moment of everything. He
Yeah.
already knew when he made this world that that person was going to make that choice to not believe in him.
Sure.
So that's where the choice, that's where it just becomes an illusion to us from our perspective that it's a choice. But in the ultimate sense of everything, there was no choice there.
Well, hang on. Wait. So let's say, because this question was asked to me earlier, and I'll just bat it back to the other atheists here. If you die as an atheist, holding the beliefs which some of you might hold right now, that you don't believe there's a God, that you don't believe there's anyone who sees your future or sees, there's any hope for hereafter. Let's assume that you die holding that belief. Did you was it forced upon you to believe, or did you die with the choice that you had chosen to not believe?
I think you died with the illusion that you had the choice.
Well, that begs the question of doxastic voluntarism, which is whether beliefs are indeed choices or whether they're, very much
Yeah.
on the order of like perceptions, like seeing the color red.
Well, change
the color red when
change it from belief to following a religion or not following a religion. Because you can choose to follow a religion whether you believe it or not. And that takes the belief choice out of there. But I would,
here's the thing. If you knew...
I would still say that was an illusion. From our perspective, it does seem like we have a choice. It does. From our perspective, it does seem like we have the choice of theist, atheist, A or B in front of us. But like I said, in the ultimate sense, since God is the one that created it to begin with, knew the beginning and the end all at the same time, there was no other choice than for me to pick A at the end of my life.
Yeah.
From my perspective, though, it did seem like I lived through it and I chose A. But from an ultimate sense, there was no choice there. There was no even an opportunity for a choice.
Well, that's why I think we have to look at this. If we're talking specifically about coming to Christ or about atheism, the rejection of that position, we have to look at it as an encompassing question involving being our lives independently of each other and our own free thought, the information we have, the science we can do, the history we have, what we know through our own experiences. And that, of course, brings us, if we just carry on what you were just saying just then, let's say you were to get on a motorcycle, and let's say you rode this motorcycle every now and then, but this one time you get on a motorcycle and you go down the road, you fall off it, maybe the wheels slip out from under you, and you have a horrible accident, and you lose your legs. Mm-hmm. Now you might say, well, God saw that, therefore I had no choice in it. Let's say the choice is there for you to put your trust in God, that He will give you safe traveling mercies, that He will be with you and abide with you, so that such a possible outcome doesn't come to fruition, but He actually changes what would have happened. I'm talking again about His intervention, and this is something I do see in my life, that if God intervenes and changes the pattern, then again, He might see the future of that. He might see that I decide to put trust in Him, therefore that doesn't happen, the motorcycle accident doesn't happen, but instead something prosperous happens instead.
Did God know when He created everything?
Yeah.
Since we're in a timeline, He's not in this timeline. It's all at once for Him, and that didn't even make sense. But to even say it like that, He knew it all at once. He knew when He created it, He was going to intervene at this certain time in your life to change something.
Yeah.
So Him intervening or not still doesn't give you a choice or Him a choice. The only choice He would have had, the only choice I see in all of this would have been, and I don't even know how that would even play out, that in God's mind He chose to create this universe, this world. Our history was going to play out the way our history played out. Our future is going to play out the way our future is going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
He knew all that at once. That's why I
Yeah.
say he's not going through the timeline and making it as it happens.
Yeah.
He knows it ultimately the instant he did it.
Sure. Interventions and all.
So right. So
so-
the only choice being made in our lives and in his, if you want to call it a life, would have been this world he created to play out this way.
Sure. And the only choices the only thing he asks of you, he says, choose life or death, choose life. Now he says choose life or death, but the following statement is to choose life. So we're given the option, but we're given the instruction also. Do I believe, for my own opinion, do I believe that um, that atheists, people who choose not to believe, have a good reason to not believe? Now that's not something for me to choose. That's down to your own discernment. And your own experiences and your own willingness to put trust in God and in others and their testimonies.
And I've asked this.
But also, sorry, go on.
I've asked this of a handful of Christians probably this past week or two, and I've got a consistent answer. It would be irrational for me to say I'm buying into that I do have a choice, or even if it's an illusion that I have a choice. It would be irrational for me to buy into any of it until I had what I would consider sufficient experience or sufficient.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's a consistent answer that I've got throughout the week.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Someone's got a hungry chihuahua.
There's two of them here.
All right. So yeah. How do you want? What's the consensus so far? Where are we to?
Yeah, I actually think we agree because, like the distinction you made earlier, from God's perspective, it's different. From ours, we have to be, and kind of like with solipsism or determined, you have to be pragmatic and just live like you have choices.
Mm.
And I don't know how other to say it. You do have to live pragmatically to go through it.
Yeah. So, but again, I'd say, just to
It's going to end how it's going to end.
reassert something, regardless of, I say regardless of, I don't really like saying this, but regardless of how God sees our endings as believers or disbelievers, we've got to say, in this context, if we're looking at it from God's point of view, and I know, as some of you as disbelievers are only seeing this as hypothetical. Of course, I'm not seeing it as hypothetical. I'm seeing it a completely different light. So the angles are different in this regards. But if God allows us to die, come to our end as a believer or non-believer, regardless of whether He believes that or not, we have to concede that we had the choice to choose between believing or not believing, and God allowed that to play out regardless of Him knowing the ending or not. Is that fair or is that unfair in your point of view?
Say that one more time.
Do you feel it's fair that sorry, I'm being poked in the side. Get down.
No, you're fine.
So it's not you, it's a dog.
No, you're take your time.
So, is it fair? Do you believe it's fair in me saying, from my perspective, that I believe that regardless of what God sees our ending being as believers and non-believers, that we had choice in regards to the ending we came to. So you might say, if I was a person who was organising a bicycle, let's say a motorcycle race, and there was different people on the lineup. Now I knew for certain that I had tampered with one of the motorcycles so that it wouldn't run properly. I would have a greater certainty on the ending of the race. Now, of course, that would be a troubled scenario because it would be unfair and unequal to the other riders, to this specific rider, in the race because he'd finish impaired. He wouldn't be able to keep up with the others. But let's say they all. I know the outcome because I have this omniscient knowledge of where the outcome would be. But some choose to drive. It's their own choice to drive either recklessly, and in doing so they crash and they don't finish in the position they want to, albeit I know where they're going to finish. How do you think that affects, or do you think it's fair that I see it from that point of view where God sees the ending, but we still have the choice from our point of view to believe or disbelieve?
Right, yeah, from our perspective, and see, and it kind of falls into, because I'm a determinist at this point. I still think, even as an atheist, I don't have a choice in things. I think I have the illusion of it still. But I still, what you're saying from your perspective, I would agree with you. I'd say that's fair. From your perspective, you have the choices that you're making, and you do have the choice of, like I was saying, the Pepsi or cherry Pepsi earlier. You have the choice of which one you're going to pick. The illusion of it, from my perspective, and from your perspective, you do have that choice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm agreeing as much as I can with still being a determinist kind of thing. And, that's why I said, even if I had become a Christian, I would still almost have to work in determinism from as an overall sense of God laying everything out.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't think he is there pushing our choices around and all that. I think he's just set them out the way they are. I mean, all at once, like I said. He didn't look through and say, okay, I'm going to have him choose A and then B and then C and then A. I think he laid it out as that all at once. This is the path he's going to take.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree.
Go ahead.
I disagree with that slightly. I believe God has planned out all your choices, almost to the point of where I might be agreeing with Calvinists almost. But like I said, I'm a universalist. I believe God has picked out everyone's choices and still given us the illusion of choice, because we just got to play out this play we all been written into. So from our point of view, in order to play our roles the right way, we have to proceed as if we have choice. In fact, even think that we have choice.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We have to be pragmatic no matter what. From our perspective, it doesn't seem determined.
And
with
that understanding, even the Book of Romans pointed that out. He said it's not by he who wills, he who runs, but by he who shows mercy. That means you can't decide to be a believer yourself. You can't just decide it. God has to put it in you to decide it. And and if that's the case, then the hell thing, it's just throwing all up into question. It's not fair to send someone to be punished for all eternity if they didn't have the choice except to go there.
Well, I think I have a uniquely, or not uniquely, but different perspective from anyone here, and because I don't feel like, what you might call experience, in my case, is supporting it. I mean, when I feel as if sort of my body is not my own, and so on, or, well, where am I? Is there even a me? Then when I feel, I guess, that I'm compelled to action I don't even want to take, or whatever, well, where is the idea of making a choice on this? So, I mean, there are others who don't feel like the nature of this quote unquote human experience is the way you do, and accounting for the contrariety might be a valid question in of itself. I mean, there's
Well, I think the reason why we're in the situation where we only have the illusion of choice, but ultimately we don't, is because whatever existence comes after this was necessary.
Yeah.
Or what's
Can I add
next?
to that point?
I'm sorry, what?
May I add to that point?
Sure.
Okay, so what I'd add to that is, if you think of how, if you plant a seed, right? We know, say you know what the species of tree. Let's say it's a sycamore tree, and you have a seed, and you plant the seed. Now, from our point of view, we don't know for sure whether the seed is well rooted, or whether it's going to take root and become a sapling and grow up and become a tree. But we can, with some certainty, assume, having known what this seed is for that particular tree or plant or whatever it is, all we could do is wait and see what happens. Now, this is really, from our perspective, it is a waiting and watching game regarding things of our nature, things which are on the same plane to us. And from God's perspective, of course, He knows. I believe, He causes it. He gives the tree root itself. So, but I think the bear, David, sorry, the picture of the teddy bear, or the dog. I would say that if you look at Romans 1 verse 20, it says, "For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things which are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." Now, of course, this is where the controversial side of it comes in, between believers and non-believers, is that, of course, as a Christian, I believe the Word of God is true and sound. So when I read that, and believing what I believe is true from not only from God's Word, but obviously from creation itself, and the very fashion in which it's made and put together, I see it as the unbeliever, someone who says there is no God, has no excuse for their disbelief. Now, you might say, well, we have alternatives and theories of evolution and stuff like this. There's a typical, very common rebuttal to that argument. But if we look at it as, again, I'll bring this kind of encompassing way of looking at it rather than looking at it too abstractly in one direction. If we try to look at it as a whole, we've got to look at the formulation of creation as something, by the laws we know, by the science we can do, like I've said before, we've got to look at different formulas. And if we were to go by an evolutionary formula, which is just time plus energy and inorganic matter equals life, we can see that doesn't work out. It's not a feasible formula. It doesn't work. Of course, a creation model says there's time, there's energy, there's this inorganic matter, but there's an extra ingredient, which is information. And that's what equates to life. It's an information-bound life is an information-bound machine. Oh.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Well,
No, that was mine.
Is
Sorry,
that
Richard.
just human life, or we generally regard there being, plants, fungus,
Well, speak of
lower
all
animals
life.
like squid and insects. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if Art's here, but if you take it back a little bit, what was the contradiction or what was the conflict that we were having with this? I know what his argument was, but I don't know. Once you divide the perspectives and you kind of agreed, what is the conflict there?
I can maybe explain. I'm here.
Yeah. That's what I'm asking, please. I want to.
Just to clarify, you asked me about my argument, which is not my argument, but
Yeah.
the argument from free will.
Right. What
Well,
conflict do we have with free will at this point when he agrees that God's perspective is pretty much us no having free will? From ours, we do.
Well, the thing is, we don't have, actually, when you asked Richard from which perspective we don't have free will, and Richard said God's perspective, or was it the opposite? Was Richard asking you?
No. From God, no. I don't remember, but from God's perspective, we don't have free will.
Right. Well, I would actually say that from both perspectives, we have no free will. I mean, we might have an illusion.
What's the contradiction, though, about God? I think you brought it up to say that there was a contradiction with describing God and free will.
Right, well,
God's
right.
omniscience and free will.
Right, well, because God is all-knowing, He knows your future choices relative to you. Relative to you, before you've made these choices, God already knows the choices that you will make. As what I've, drawn here very badly kind of displays. This is God's knowledge, and He knows relative to you before you've made this choice that you will already make choice A. So you have no other choice but to make choice A. If you make choice B, then this is false. God is not all-knowing.
Well, I think Richard got to the point. From God's perspective, we have no free will. From our perspective, we have. I don't know if he agrees with that. We have the illusion of free will, but I'm going to say we have the illusion of free will, but we have to live pragmatic, like we do have choices. That's just the way our mind.
Well, since God dictates, well, since God is everything, in His view, I would say when you agree, Richard, that from God's perspective there is no free will, then there is no free will at all, actually, and you're then a determinist.
Can you come back to your conclusion, Mary? You said God has no. What was it? I broke up for a moment. I missed your conclusion of your.
From God's perspective, we have no free will.
Right, and what was the God has no? So I missed.
No, not God. You have no choice.
I have no choice.
Right.
Yeah, but let's just bring it back, because I've got to look at this. I've got to give this my perspective, obviously scripturally. I can't just talk willy-nilly here, because obviously I'll be speaking nonsense.
That's what it is. That's what the conflict is. God cannot be omniscient, and you have literal free will. It's either or, and I don't know how.
That's what I heard, something like that. Yeah.
That's what the conflict is. Okay.
Okay,
so I think is that right, Art? Is that where the conflict is?
Absolutely, yeah, that's actually well said, yeah.
Okay, so allow me to bring this back into, from my perspective, scripturally speaking. Okay, so I'm saying from the knowledge I have, and how the Lord speaks to me, is I'm always given the choice to hearken unto His word and listen, and keep His word, and be blessed in that respects, or to fail in that respect. So I'm continuously given this choice whether to keep God's will or to damn it. So it's not a single choice where it's between the now and the future. It's a choice I'm continuously given daily, moment by moment, as the old hymn goes, moment by moment. I'm given the choice to trust in God. People say belief in God is something, are you a Christian? You believe in God, full stop. It's actually a moment by moment thing. Do I choose to accept God, to believe and trust in Him, or is it does it break down in certain areas?
How do you break down the moment by moment? I mean, is it every second, every half second, every quarter of a second, every nanosecond? Like, how do you break? How does that even work?
So so you asked me to quantify it. So I would say it's like this. Okay, and I gave the before we went live, I gave the analogy, or the kind of description of if someone were to punch you in the face and you were given the option, whether to retaliate if you were that way inclined, if that was the way your genetic makeup was, that you were very kind of a brutish person. I'm not saying necessarily brutish, but maybe you're a person who reacts without thought. Let's say you react with the stimulus of anger. So let's say every day, or every time one of these opportunities comes your way, that someone does you wrong, or hurts you in a way that would cause you ordinarily to act without thought and instinctively to cause that person equal damage to what they've caused you, or greater so, because you're enraged. Now let's say that opportunity comes for you to react. Someone's come up to you and punched you in the face. It's hurt. It's caused you to react with your normal instincts. But then you hear the word of God speak. and God says to you, no, listen, he says, think about this. You can bless this person so that they won't hurt other people, and they won't hurt you again, by simply forgiving them and showing them love, compassion, rather than responding in an equal way, which is wrong. Rather than retaliating with violence, you can retaliate with love, and it's love which will conquer this situation. Now, I have the choice then in that moment, let's say it's me, I have the choice in that moment to hearken unto God's word and listen and trust in him. Even though I cannot see that result's going to come to be, I can put my trust in him and have faith that God knows more, that he sees the future, that he sees the result, or I can go by my own instinctive, genetic, and historical way of behaving, my patterned way of behaving, and not put my trust in God. So it's a moment by moment in scenarios. That's just one scenario. There's many scenarios
See if you can
which come up in my daily life.
on the timeline and God being out of time, which is an abstract thing that's hard to think of. But if you were running through this simulation, say our world say this reality is simulation, the first time you run through it, you could make choices. Now, if I were to replay that and watch it again, there's no choices being made again. So when God laid this out, that was the choice. Other than that, it's just all playing out the way he laid it out to be played out. So what you see as a choice was laid out by him.
Yeah.
So there.
But that's to remove the perimeters. Remember, there's perimeters in this equation. That God is continuously feeding us the right path. It's not a path which is, like I said, it's not willy-nilly. It's not completely random, but we can choose whether to put our faith and trust in him. And I'm using faith in that respect, that we put trust in him, that we can't see with our. Sorry,
God, I'm staying in those parameters because if you look at it, God says, okay, I'm going to tell him he has the choice between A and B. But he's gonna play out to pick A. But I'm going to give him the info so he runs through the scenario and he's still going to pick A in the end.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think he's literally there pushing you to pick A. I think when he laid the thing out, since there is no timeline in his head, he's out of this time. He laid it out all at once.
Well, let's just remember these parameters because they're very important. Mm-hmm. If God is a loving God, does he give you one choice, one chance, or does he give you many chances to repent and to put trust in him? It's the faith in Christ that he knows greater than us, like we're talking about him knowing all, so he knows the end. Unlike us, we live moment by moment, millisecond by millisecond, whatever it is, and we're going through time, whereas he is watching it from this, we're saying overview, a bird's eye view, for want of a visual depiction, to kind of conceptualize it. If God's looking down on us in that scenario, and he knows the end game, regardless of whether we choose to put trust in him and faith in him, it's incredibly merciful of him to continuously minister to us, to give us that option. Now, regardless of where we go to damnation, which he tells us which is the two options. There's either damnation or there's salvation. Now, being that I believe those are the two options, and I'm aware that atheists don't believe in those options, but I believe those are the options. Now, if we're talking about it in this scenario, looking down at it from a bird's eye point of view. Sorry?
Let me add a scenario. I don't mean to keep cutting out. Let me add a scenario in there where, and I'm trying to think of one in my head that I can lay out, where I'm a creator. I create on this computer a ball that bounces, and there's two holes it can go through. It can go through A or B. I throw this ball, and it bounces, and I'm creating this on the computer. I create this ball to bounce through hole A.
Yeah.
Now, we play that video back, it's always going to jump through A.
Yeah, that's right.
From the ball's perspective, the ball was free falling, and we'll say it had a brain. The ball had the choice between A and B,
Right.
but in its perspective, it chose A. In my
Yes.
perspective, I made it to go through A.
Forgive me,
Okay.
I joined the conversation a little bit late, but I wanted to ask Richard.
It had no other choice but to bounce through A. It couldn't have bounced through B even if it wanted to.
So, Richard, are you talking about predestination, and what is your Christian denomination, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm a non-denominational Christian. I read the Bible and I listen to God as it is. I do listen to what preachers and different people have to say on the matter, and I do actually listen to atheists because I want to hear what they have to say. It's not that I agree with it, being the knowledge I hold and the knowledge some people don't hold, because fundamentally, when we're talking about Christ and we're talking about a relationship with Him, we're talking about knowledge which is my tongue to work. Experienceable. It's in the experience of knowing God.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
when I'm talking about atheists and Christians, as myself, I'm talking about what I know to be true and what others have yet come to know to be true, be it that it's a
So
lack.
are you describing a belief in predestination?
No, we're describing omniscience versus free will.
The question was asked
Yeah, Richard
by
Harmony.
Art. The question was asked originally about free will, and I think the questions they're asking is what people here are asking me is, do I believe I have free will, or do they have free will themselves? And I have to talk about it from the position of knowledge I hold and the perspective I'm looking at it from, and I'm trying to maybe relate my experience or my understanding of it to theirs, and likewise I'm listening to what the other people on the panel here are saying from their perspectives and their experiences to try and see where we're coming from. And
Yeah,
I think
work the conflict out.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I was just getting the idea that perhaps you were a Calvinist and we're speaking of a doctrine of predestination.
No.
We mentioned that earlier, and that's a. I think Art brought it up or something too, and
No, to clarify, I'm actually in a way arguing that he should be a Calvinist because I see a contradiction in God being all-knowing and theists having actual, literal free will.
Okay, so I'll answer that. Why I'm not a Calvinist is I believe when Jesus says, hang on, let me just get the exact scripture up here, just so I'm not saying.
Okay, Richard, can I just quickly before you go? It doesn't really matter what the Bible says. Even if the Bible said Art is an idiot, you have free will, don't listen to him. That doesn't address the paradox.
And did you get the scenario I was talking about with the bouncing ball just a minute ago?
Yes, I got that.
Where the ball, from its perspective, thought it had a choice between going through A and B, or A or B.
Mm.
But I had created this program to make the ball always bounce through A.
Yeah. Okay, so
It actually had no choice. The bounce.
no, I'm not disregarding what you're saying. I'm just trying to, like I said, bring perspective from what I'm saying, what I know to be true from my point of view, and trying to contrast it, if you will.
It's probably not a perfect analogy, but I'm trying to come up with one where I am a creator of something other than in my timeline, if that makes sense. So it's probably not a perfect analogy, but I'll try to work the bugs out of it.
Yeah, well, I'll go along with your bouncing ball for a moment, and I'll say, regarding the bouncing ball, let's understand that there are natural laws of gravity, the inertia put upon it, changes direction when it hits the ground and bounces, and where it's going to go.
Which I made as well. I made in this program.
Which you made as well. That's right. Now, the bouncing ball in this analogy is you, and you're traveling towards hole A or hole B. I forget. It doesn't matter. You're heading towards what you think is true in this scenario. Now, let's not forget, because I have to come up to give you my understanding of it, is that God is continuously, and this is the important ingredient I think we're missing out, is that God is continuously ministering to us of the truth and the direction we can take if we choose. So when it says in Romans 10:13, for whosoever shall call upon my name of the Lord shall be saved, what he's saying is it's you have the choice. You can either call to the Lord and be saved, or you can choose not to. It's not,
into that analogy.
regardless of where I know the ball is going to go. If I'm continuously giving the ball, which has choice of which direction it goes, okay, and I continuously minister to it, if you like, if I'm God in this scenario, talking to the ball, actually intervening to stop certain things to happen because I love the ball, doing great things, actually becoming a ball myself. I know this is kind of crazy, going a bit mad now, but becoming a ball myself, going to destruction for this ball, to show it that I love the ball, and to demonstrate that I want the ball to succeed in going the correct way. Now, those are a lot of parameters added to it.
In that, add all those to it, and I'm still looking at my program I made with the bouncing ball, hole A and B. No matter what I do, this ball is always going to go through hole A. I can go in there.
Hang on, you're forgetting one thing here. Sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. Go ahead.
So one thing you're forgetting is, right now you might be absolutely convinced that what I'm saying is absolute hogwash. That Christ is a fabricated character, that God himself doesn't exist. You might believe this for absolute certainty. But let's say, just for this is completely off the cuff, and I hope it doesn't come true, but let's say something happens to one of your loved ones, and you're put in the scenario where the situation is outside of your hands. Okay, now you pray and put your faith in God that he's going to sort this out for you. Now God, even though seeing that you reject him and you don't believe and you're going against his will, he loves you so much. He loves you so much that he'll intervene and do this for you because he loves you. And in doing so, your mindset is changed, and you might actually become more perceptible to the reality of God. Now, I'm not saying that's true, and I hope it doesn't happen to any of your loved ones. But what I'm saying is, you can say right now, I do not believe that 4 and 4 is 8. You might say that with absolute certainty. But let's say, no, but that's a bad analogy. Let's say you're a child and you're uneducated of mathematics. Okay. Now, someone says to you, 2 and 2 is 4. You might say, no, it's not. Well, load of rubbish. But let's say in a few days' time, you start to get a flavour for mathematics. You start to add stones together, and you start piling them up, and suddenly it becomes to your it comes to all of your senses and reality that 2 and 2 actually is 4. Now, it's not to say that you're in a position of that you're stupid or there's anything wrong with you or you're impaired in any way. It's a choice whether to believe something to be true through experience, through understanding, or to reject it for other reasons. Now, I'm not saying whether reasons are right or wrong. All I'm saying is what I know to be true is true based upon my own experiences, my own reality, and the way God talks to me and ministers to me in my everyday life. So I've got to, if we're talking about this bouncing ball going towards a certain hole, regardless if I know where the hole's going to go, I'm going to try my best because I love this ball. I know this sounds so weird to talk about ball, but I love this ball so much that I'm going to continuously minister to it, continuously tell it that I love it, continuously show it the right way, and in doing so, I'm wooing it. The same way a man woos a woman when he's in love with her, gives her gifts, shows parts of himself he would ordinarily hide, do things in absolute faith that he'll win the woman over, doing things he would never ordinarily do, but in love for this woman, he'll do it. That's the kind of thing I'm trying to bring to the table from my point of view.
So I'm a little confused because it sounds like Sexbox was talking about just a causal, physical phenomenon, but it sounds like what you're suggesting, Richard, is that some metaphysical, an introduction of magic into the material realm that is actually not creating freedom, that it would be an intervention of a higher power that would be creating either randomness or forcing somebody to do something unconsciously.
Right, because no matter how much magic or power you put into this, I'm telling you, it's always going to go in hole A. Now, if you, like you just said, though, if you add randomness to this, then I became unknowing of what this program is going to do anymore. So now I'm not omniscient on this program anymore.
Right. Well, I've got to straight away. I've got to take dispute with the word magic, because I don't believe God works in magic ways. I believe He works
Well,
in
we
His
could
way.
say a non-local phenomenon.
Whatever word you want to use. I don't think he was trying to offend you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't take offence to it. I'm just trying to use terms which I see as suiting to what I'm speaking about.
Yep.
Right.
So when I'm speaking about God behaving in His way, in the way He behaves, I can also look back at Scripture and saying how God has always behaved and how He continues to behave, which continuous mercies, continuous opening of doors and shutting off doors which are wrong. He's filtering through. He's pruning the tree to grow in a certain way,
Right.
the same way a gardener prunes a tree to grow to his desired way.
Right. The technical term is causus sui, right? So basically an event that occurs, just out of nowhere. It just happens. That's the way it is perceived. So it's that the term for that is causus sui.
Right.
Neat.
So, oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying neat. I've never heard that word before.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so what I'm saying is, excuse me, I'm proposing that what God is doing, if the closest analogy you can give in this scenario is a pruning of a tree, or a nurturing, a mother nurturing a child for it to grow in a desired way. It's not to say the child will grow up and be wicked or do something completely hideous and against the mother's nature, but it's to bring the child up in the best way you can, so it's given the choice to do what's right, but it's also the choice always is there to do what's wrong. Okay?
Sorry, guys.
Well, Jimmy Stevens in the comments says that choice is being equivocated upon, and that people should have perhaps a more well-defined notion of it and try to
Repeat the first of it.
clear when they refer to it. Jimmy Stevens in the comments for the event.
What was the first sentence? I missed a word in what you said.
I was describing the source of the comment, Jimmy Stevens, in the event page.
No, what was his first sentence? I missed a word in what you were saying his comment was. Sorry.
I can recite precisely. The word choice is being equivocated horribly. Namely, choice is being used interchangeably to mean alternative or option, as well as volition or intentional action. This needs to be clarified.
Yeah, I got you. Equivocating is the word that I missed. Sorry.
Like choice is from it requires a mind, and I believe we all accept we have a mind, and we're all able to make choices, be them physical choices or be them mental decisions, beliefs, or thoughts, and what we entertain or choose not to entertain. I think from what I'm saying is, I believe the choice is we have equal choice to believe or disbelieve, but the direction in which God is wooing us, as it were, as I said before, with the analogy of the man wooing the female, someone he loves and he's becoming to love, is to not to physically, shake her, love me, but to actually woo her into loving him through being loving himself. So the choice is not something which is outside of our control, but it's very much in our hands. The ball is always in our hands, and where we pass it to, albeit that we have choices of who we pass the ball to, the ball is always in our hands, and we're always given that choice on who we do pass it to, albeit that the people we pass the ball to are exact.
Well, unfortunately, offering a definition at an isolated point in time won't really address this concern, but rather that ongoing usage of the term be done in a
Consistent.
more careful way.
Yeah. Be more consistent of how we're using it. If we're going to use it one way, then keep using it that way, or define it differently whenever we're using it in a different way.
Or like
Sure.
add a few descriptors to it to make sure we're clear about what sense we mean it in.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
And I was trying to say precise throughout the thing and say that what my choice I kept talking about was A or B. Like that's a choice between two things. That's when you have to make a decision between the two. That there really is no decision there. It's already been made. If there was even a decision, it's already been made. So, and sorry.
I could take a number of different tacks, but I would take not any, but I would take different ones from the ones being pursued here. So, say for instance, well, if there is a will, it goes to, you would ascribe it to a causal agent, like agent causality. Is that right? I mean, granting it's boxing that in a bit, but it's really trying to get closer nailed down idea of what you mean. I mean, when a decision is made, a free will choice to these intentional, voluntary, uncoerced decisions, are they effectively uncaused? Is there nothing that determines their outcome beforehand?
You asking Richard?
Right. For Richard, I think Josiah is a Christian as well, and Fritz also.
Yeah, Fritz. Yeah. And while y'all are thinking about that, I'm not sure how you get to anything having a decision. With Richard, I think he actually agrees with a determinist model without saying I'm a determinist. It's because it conflicts with what some of the teaching.
Interrupting you because Fritz is talking about dropping out. No, we don't want you to drop out.
No.
We're hoping you could comment on the question of the nature of what choices are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think again we have to assert and agree upon this reality we experience. We do not know the future. We, as people, as human beings, do not know the future. So any advances we take, we can either choose, and this is my belief, and I understand that many of you don't share this belief, but I believe that if we put trust in God, we will get certainly the better outcome than to deny Him. And I believe that these choices that we make, regardless of God's... Sit down, dog. Regardless of God seeing our definitive ending, be it that we go to damnation or to salvation, regardless of that, we're continuously given the choice, and we are wooed by Him, and in doing so, this choice is ours, whether to trust Him or to not trust Him. And I think, I can't really add much more to that.
So it is. Would that not be in your mind? Can you not see that as if He's omniscient and knows you're going to pick, He's going to woo you to pick A, and you're going to pick A. He knew this before you did it.
Yeah, but many don't pick A. This is the thing.
The question on this though is that not? Do you not see a futility to Him wooing you to A when He already knew you were going to pick A?
Do I see a
to B,
Sorry.
even though you knew you were going to pick A?
Do I see a what? Sorry, because I missed you
You
then.
don't see the futility in either the futility in it or the
Well, is it futile? Well, I don't really see how it can be futile. I mean, like I said, from our experiences, the choice is always ours. And yes, from God's perspective, He knows where we're going. He knows whether we're of Him or whether we're not of Him. And if we're of Him, we'll seek Him through righteousness and His kingdom. We'll trust in Him and we'll walk His walk.
do you not see like
Christ also says,
do you
sorry.
not see like a cognitive dissonance in saying that from God's perspective, He knows everything and He set all this
Yeah.
out the way it is, and the way that it started, the way that it's our past, our history, our future, everything is all laid out by Him.
Yeah.
And then at the same time holding a belief that you have a choice in anything in any matter.
Well, this is to say, I think if I can, I forgive me if I'm overstepping my mark here, but from my perspective, if I try to look at it from what you're saying, it comes down to, from what you're saying, from the way I'm interpreting it, and again, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it appears as if you see it as there's no point in being at all, being that my destiny is already set for me, and
No. And that's why I say we got to be pragmatic about it, no matter what the situation is. We still act like we have a choice. I say act in a loose term, but we act as we still have a choice in any matter. But if I were to believe that God, not just the all-knowing, but that's just a bonus in there, but that He set this whole plan out. He didn't set it out as a spark and it went out, as like the Big Bang, a big expansion from past to future. He set it out all at once. The whole scenario is out at once. It's not in God's perspective. Things aren't playing out. They already are. They are what they are.
Sure.
So
he's seeing it from the now, whereas we're seeing it as a now in time perspective, which is on a different dimension.
It might loosen up the problem if God hadn't been the creator that laid it out. It's not. I don't see how. I guess how I see in your perspective, without having a cognitive dissonance, you would have to say God laid this out, and now He doesn't know anything else that's going to happen because it's all going to be random, and He can intervene and woo us to certain. Since He's omnipresent, He can woo everybody at the same time to lead them to a path, to show them that there is a better path. But but it's still just a random thing out there, and it's up to us whether we choose the A or B.
Again, I don't think I'm. I hope I'm not coming across as having some sort of cognitive distance, because that's really not what I'm trying to. Way I'm trying to come across. I'm trying to.
At all. I wouldn't mean it as an insult. I'm just saying I don't know how to have the two beliefs
Sure.
at the same time. I didn't know how else to explain it.
I think it's the conceptual. It's hard. It's very difficult to conceptualize this, being that we're not God ourselves. We're seeing it from a sinful nature, whereas God is the absence of sin completely. You think of it as the best way to think of it is how a candle shines, or how a light shines into a room. Wherever there's an object, behind that object where the light does not shine, there's going to be a shadow. Now you might say, you move the light around, the shadow's going to change, where it sets, where the light isn't able to permeate.
Everybody, how we doing on this fine and lovely evening?
It's loud. I'm ready.
Oh, hello.
Hey, Jim. Sorry, what were you
talking about free will and
Richard.
omniscience and so on?
The last sentence you said I didn't hear because the background noise.
Oh, sorry, I forgot what I was saying then. Oh dear, I forgot what I was saying.
The
Sorry,
candle
I do
casting a
apologize.
shadow. God has no
The
sin.
shadow. Yep, the candle with the shadow.
Yeah, so God says, He created the light, and in doing so, He made the distinction between what is light and what is dark. Um, so He says in the beginning, He separated the light from the darkness. Light and darkness are two different things, but light always overcomes darkness. Now, I know it sounds like it's going off into the realms of kind of nonsense, but I'm trying to draw the comparison between Christ being the light. And say, for example, again, I talked about the tree earlier on. If we look at how plants grow towards the light, you might say, well, plants have no choice in the matter. And I would say, yeah, maybe so. Plants don't have any choice in that matter. In the same way, I don't have choice whether to be to live. I have a choice to end my life, but being as I am is something I'm experiencing. You might say so far without my choice. So you might say there's no choices involved, and you're saying
Jim, you have a bunch of background noise. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead and leave the chat. I'm actually still at a restaurant.
You're fine, man.
It'll probably go for a while, so feel free to rejoin once you get home.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Richard, you're not attempting to describe reality, though, right? In space-time, as a dimension of space-time versus an eternal dimension. You're suggesting something other than that, because obviously, in the dual nature of our reality, you can't have light without dark, right?
Yes, that's right. So another way to might look at it, I know this is maybe too many metaphors, analogies, and all this going on, but another way you might want to look at it is think of anything your hands can create, be it a computer code for making a program, be it a work of art, whatever it might be. No matter what the human being tries to create in the physical nature of matter coming together, composed of parts which he chooses to put together, no matter how much love and attention and detail he puts into his creation, it will never amount to the nature of himself. Now you might say, oh, what about a portrait or something like this? Well, no, because that itself isn't alive. We can't create life. We can't create things, anything of substantial in comparison to ourselves. And I think likewise, anything God creates can never be as great as himself. And that's why a creation can be faulty or with fault, as creation is with sin.
Which how you define life.
Go on.
I'm saying that kind of can get down to a semantic thing of what you call life or what you call greater kind of thing too.
And I'm confused,
sure.
Richard, because I thought earlier you were talking about evolution. I assumed that you did believe in evolution. My understanding is supposedly the Pope Francis made a statement about the Catholic Church, formally adopting evolution as a true scientific model for humanity, which is pretty profound change, is that in my understanding.
Yeah.
I think the last two popes have accepted this Darwinian model, but I hazard to believe that they actually understand what they're talking about. I'm not a Catholic myself. I don't really support that.
When you say doctrine, when you say the Darwinian model, do you mean they're more,
I accept it.
The current state of evolution of the observed evolution, not the theory of evolution, but the
modern synthesis isn't a Darwinian one.
Right, that's what I was asking. Are they? You said Darwinian. I figured for a reason. Are they accepting of that, or are they accepting of the newer, the more
I believe
refined stuff?
I believe they're accepting a Darwinian model because the way they speak about man becoming eventually understanding of himself, becoming self-aware. This kind of idea is very much based in Darwinism and social Darwinism.
Gotcha.
it's not something I appeal to. It's not something I dare say is scientific. I think that's long gone, that idea. But
Yeah, I wouldn't appeal to it. Anything. I agree.
I don't want to cross too many fords at one go. I think if we come back to this question of the nature of our ability to have choice or no choice, I don't think I can add much more than to say that I believe God knows where I'm going, whether I'm going to stumble and fall, or whether I'm going to stay with Him and continually to listen to Him and fellowship with Him. That's God's knowledge and not mine. But when I'm speaking of my knowledge, I can only speak of what I know to be true. Likewise, I can't speak on your behalf. You know what's true for you. You know what your experiences are. You know what your memories are. You know what's true to you. I can only speak on my own behalf and what I know to be true. And I wouldn't expect you to speak on my behalf. And likewise, I think it'd be rather rude if I were to speak on your behalf.
I like that use of true. I like the it's not an ultimate truth, I guess, or an objective truth. What's true for me is not true for you, kind of thing.
Sorry.
Nothing. Go ahead, man.
I got a funny ear on this headset. Sorry. It's the right ear. It keeps disappearing, so it goes from left to right. It jumps in and out.
I have a set like that.
It's awful.
Well, Richard, I would agree with you to the extent that contemporary science hasn't definitively proved that the quote-unquote soul or an agency of consciousness that we could say it has some degree of will, conscientious will behind it, where it has feedback loops and it can choose yes or no and go through that program, whether that doesn't or could exist in some way other than a causal process that we know of. So we assume most of the phenomena that takes place in the universe is a causal process. You're suggesting that that's all true, but maybe there's something extra, you know, who knows from whence it comes or how it operates. This would be the soul that would allow us to make a choice, and for it to somehow be ultimately a real freely willed decision. Please go ahead, Nadia.
That's why I asked you earlier if you could go against the will of God. If you have free will, can you go against His will? So, yeah, go ahead. Who said that?
Yeah, in my case, well, my actual belief would essentially mandate going against the concepts of both free will and the deity entirely. But with respect to the contradiction between the two, I think the trouble really comes down to some, well, different issues, namely essentially time relative to these knowledge, as I brought up earlier, and also, well, the extent of the personhood, agency, and so on, as they are, well, independent or similar from a deity, right? If it knows them to have created them, then you have essentially they're ultimately entirely caused by the deity, and then the effects of the action of creation are fully known in advance, and so on. I mean, did God make your soul?
What was that question? Sorry.
Did God make your soul?
Did God make my soul?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yes. For example, I have to answer this in the way I'm coming from it, from my position of knowledge I hold. I'm believing that God, when He breathed life into man, He became a living soul, as the Bible says. Do I believe that every single soul after that is made in the same nature? I can say I don't know the answer to that question. I believe that, being that we are fallen creatures from the original sin, that every child born thereafter is a child which, like the Bible says, the rebellion is in the heart of the child. I believe we're born this way, and it's a actually, quickly on this point, while I remember it, because thoughts go around my mind. Going back to what the sorry if I forget your name, the wolf guy, Hazy.
Yep.
He was speaking about the spirit. My sister's a psychologist, and they speak very openly of the spirit in psychology as a way of descripting the different natures of a being. So, for example, if someone's got anger, a spirit of anger, and that spirit can pass, and they can have the spirit of peace, for example. Now, that's a nice way of speaking about the spirit or different characteristics of how someone is. And I believe that's different between spirits and the soul. I believe the soul is me, or the soul is you, when we speak about individual soul. In the same way you might say, that poor old soul has gone and kicked the bucket. Used in that context, in that phrase, you might understand, how I'm saying it, what I mean by that. Whereas we talk about spirits, we talk about these natures of someone, or how what comes upon them, or how they behave, or how they think, and so on and so forth. So it's not a black and white answer, but I suppose not a black and white question. I don't know
Well,
how you want me to answer that.
Well, it comes down to the deity creating the soul and so on. And of course, you think that I'm going to at least guess or verify that you think the soul is the repository or actor within free will, right? So these ultimately the body is has no effect or whatever. It's the soul animating the body. It's pulls on all the puppet strings and so on, right?
Sorry, a puppet string.
The body is like the puppet of the soul, right? To you?
Yes, because before, when we were speaking about, I think it was actually you, Nadia, was speaking about beliefs, knowledge, thoughts, these things. I think there are mental concepts. So, for example, the belief is not a thought. A belief cannot be right or wrong. If you hold that belief, if you disregard that belief, then you might say, "Oh, now I know it to be false," or "Now I don't accept to believe it." Or a thought. If I think of a tree, that thought cannot be right or wrong, and I think you'd agree with that. I mean, it doesn't follow. It doesn't make logical sense that a thought of a man kicking a football, for example, I don't believe that thought can be right or wrong. If you think about, if you're trying to talk about it in a sense of, oh gosh, of the spirit, how do I relate that? I come back to what the fuzzy guy, not fuzzy, sorry, the hazy guy said earlier on. He asked about nature and of the spirit. Well, you've got to remember that science deals only with the material elements. It doesn't deal with anything of non-material, because that's not what science is. Science is the study of nature. So are we trying to posit that spirit is of nature? And I would say no, spirit is not of nature. Spirit does dwell in nature. As the Holy Spirit comes upon people, he dwells in nature for certain periods of times, the seasons.
Well, the dwelling, and you're saying it interacts with nature, that's when it becomes something that would be testable by science.
Sure. So I believe, no, I'd agree with that. The attributes, the effects can be measured, but they'll be measured in the material. So, for example, if you were to see a light bulb turn on, the observation would be the light, something being emitted, then you'd go down, you'd focus in more vigorously, looking at the phosphorus reaction and where the energy came from, and you might try to then theorize what the energy is and how it's moved and dispersed and what triggered it. And what you would then try to do is try to make physical, which is the energy moving, And is it a physical thing? Does it have physical properties? And you would start looking at, say, the electrons, and you go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And
At
sorry.
what point do you need to posit something extra into that? I think that was Hazy's point. Like you're saying, at what point would you need to add something extra into that equation?
Yeah,
I missed that.
I'm still trying to get an overarching arc here too.
Oh, right on.
Okay, and then if I just keep going, then when we have that this soul is unreachable by nature, but it pulls this, is a puppet master pulling the strings of the body to animate it. Then raises the question of, in the process of God's creation, what was the I guess the will of the soul made to be, and in that case, well, we do have some evidence. You have a declaration that total depravity, which I believe you take as canonical. Is that right?
Is the question to me?
Yes. Yes.
Do I see depravity? Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so slow. It's rather late here. I'm a bit thick at the moment.
Yeah, my understanding is that within the souls and so on have wills that are corrupt and described as totally depraved. Is that right?
Souls are totally depraved. Is that what you're saying? Is that right? Okay. Do I believe
the soul
the will of it? Well, I'll have to answer. I can't speak for everybody. I have to answer from my own understanding of what I believe to be true, my own nature of this question. And I'll say, I, from a young boy, since I was a young boy, always had a hunger to know truth. Maybe that's true of everyone, I can't say. But for me, myself, I wanted to know, is there absolute truth? Is there something which is true? And when I started to hear the people speak of God and of creation and of these things, internally in my spirit, I would say that I was coming maybe to understanding that there was truth, and that if I kept looking in the right directions, I would find it. Now, this, as a young boy, I had no understanding of this. In my later life, I turned away from religion altogether and those sorts of beliefs, but I always had a hunger there. Something always niggled me. I wanted to know if there was a God. I wanted to know if God exists, and it wasn't until, I don't know how old I was, but I came to listen to what Christ did, and I listened to it, and then I heard the Holy Spirit minister to me, and since the Lord spoke to me, I've been unable to deny what I've heard and what I experienced daily. And I say daily because my relationship with Christ isn't something which is, I can't say it's any different to me talking to other people. Talking to you, for example, I believe God speaks to me on my own ignorant level of understanding, I suppose, and He makes things clear to me. But I also believe He leads me into truth, and that if I put faith in what He says is true, and trust Him, that's all He asks, is that I trust Him, that He will actually guide me in the right way, that He's not going to trick me, that He's not false, that He's not a liar, but He actually loves me and He wants me to go His way because it's the right way.
So Richard, that's why I distinguish that.
I had kind of a follow-up here.
Whether he literally talked to you or if it was just the word. Go ahead.
So, yeah, this one has a bit of force to it. It's just that, the our wills and nature and so on, or the will of the soul, natures to the soul and so on. So in good nature, evil nature, whatever, or eventually nature, whatever. Psalms 139:13 argues that, in the womb, that your God essentially knew what kind of nature you had, and in fact participated in your creation, not did so at least in terms of the soul entirely itself. And at that point, you have something of a picture of a soul whose, say, his nature is, set, obviously known because it's, literally created by your God, and attempting to pull strings to make the puppet of the body follow that nature, follow that, and you're in a bit of trouble here because the puppet master had its own strings set and so on by its.
Well, Nadia, as you know, different denominations interpret that differently, right? So we know there are Calvinists who do believe in predestination and say no, there is no free will, and your Savior. You would imagine that people who do good works are the chosen ones, but it's already been determined.
No, that's not. It's not good works. That's not a Christian. That's a completely un-Christian doctrine.
Well, in your opinion, but there are certain denominations who do believe that you can get it.
Oh, sure. There's Jehovah's Witnesses. There's all sorts, but it's not.
Well, as far as I know, even the Catholic Church believes essentially that good works will get you into heaven.
Well, there you go.
So my question, so Richard, one of my questions to you was going to be that do you, as you said, you're a non-denominationalist, and God is talking to you. You believe that there's over 5,000 other religions in the world active right now. Is God working through them as well? Is the Holy Spirit active in other belief systems? So it's not just Christians who are saved.
Well, here's the thing: if we, and I've said it before, but I think it's good to reinstate it just so that it doesn't sound like I'm just going off astray. I think we have to look at it scripturally. And Christ says that before he left them, he said, I send you to go out into all the highways and byways, into all corners of the earth, and preach the gospel. And what was the gospel? That the light came into the earth, and the earth comprehended it not. But the choice was there, that if we listen to Christ, that we will gain salvation through what he had done, being sent from the Father to die for our sins, that we be washed clean in the blood of the Lamb.
But how many generations on earth exist without ever hearing that word? What choice do they really have when there's no, in the causal process of the universe unfolding, they're born and die in some other part of the world?
I agree with you, and the Bible said, again, I must answer it, excuse me, I must answer it from a biblical point of view, from a scriptural point of view. We are told to pray for people to go out and plant the seeds. We're told to go out and preach the gospel ourselves. We're not told to sit on our butts accumulating wealth, which many of these American and westernized preachers do, where it's all about their own gain. It's not about our gain. It's about the gain of people. It's about people hearing the good news. That's what it is, good news. And we're told to teach and preach the good news. Sorry, Nadia, go on.
Yeah, but if I can just maybe steer back, the soul is the thing carrying out the choice behind the body, and the soul's will is what ends up guiding the choice, right? And the trouble is, soul's will, you can maybe roll it back to a nature, and then that nature is set by, in the womb by the deity, and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Psalms 139:13. And that's where I think the real trouble with the Christian omniscience versus free will is. And if I maybe a better conversational style, maybe it sounded more forceful. Go ahead. So Schopenhauer.
We can't. Ask me a question.
So, well, it was an articulation of an alternative attempt to demonstrate there was a paradox between omniscience and free will.
I personally think when we talk about paradoxes, many things can be paradoxical from a position where, say for example, we see a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat. Well, of course, that goes against everything we see in reality. That is paradoxical. But if we come to the understanding that this is a trick, and there is a way that this trick is being performed, then we can look at it from a different perspective, a more analytical perspective. So when we see the magician, pull the rabbit out of the hat, we know he's performing a trick. It's not something real. It's not really manifested, all those elements coming together to form a rabbit inside the...
Am I the only one he froze up for?
No, it froze up here too.
Nope, he locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it froze up.
I was just going to bring up, is it a magic show? Is it a trick? Is it a con job? I think the moral character of the deity is typically desired or whatever by Christians might speak against that, but
Well, and I've pointed out
wait
his,
for it back to have a
I've pointed out
responsible.
his cognitive distance a few times, and I'm hoping he can get back to where he sees that he's holding two different views.
Yeah.
He just didn't realize that they are conflicting with each other, and he doesn't really hold those two views.
It may be that there isn't an opening for him at the moment. I think, Benny, although we do appreciate your lovely screen-shared pictures, Richard might need a slot to get back in. Is there...
There's 9 right now. I think there's 1 slot. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, his ghost is taking up 1.
What is it up there?
Killian.
Yeah.
He dropped out.
Okay, his ghost just dropped. So, okay.
There
He got
we go.
back in now that his ghost and Chili dropped. Okay.
And that's a good picture of Chili, by the way.
Yeah, welcome back. I was going to
Did everybody go
respond.
Range?
I'm sorry?
It disappeared for a second. It's a lost connection. It doesn't do
Yeah.
that usually. Sorry, I
Of
didn't
course,
mean to
it's
cut
not
you
usual.
off.
It's, once in a while.
Yeah, no, Richard, we lost you for a second. You froze up in
Right.
here for all of us.
You're
And then-
back now.
Yeah.
So, my, I guess, response or whatever was going to be something on the order of, you believe your deity is honest, and, doesn't tell a lie, and so on. And, carrying out this sort of magic trick paradox, or apparent paradox affair, would contradict the character of your deity as you describe it. So,
Yes.
I think there's a bit of trouble with trying to use the magic trick as a sort of explanation of the apparent paradoxes. Go ahead.
Sure, but all I'm saying is I don't want to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I'm just trying to, again, I'm not trying to push my beliefs upon anyone else. I'm only speaking from my own understanding. And what I'm saying is, I don't know how much I said before I disappeared on the connection there, but essentially what I was saying is that I believe it's more exciting to find answers through seeking education in certain subjects where otherwise they appear to be paradoxical. But I believe that if I keep searching, I will find truth. Now, you might say, well, isn't there a chance that I might never find truth? Yeah, say for example, what is all the numbers recurring in pi? Well, I don't know, but it could be the case that if I was willing to seek and find, that I might come to some understanding of what those numbers are. That's a terrible analogy, but I don't know if I'm making this very clear or not. What I'm saying is, I find it very rich and and rewarding to seek answers to problems if I find them to be paradoxical, and be educated in things which otherwise I would not understand if I were to choose not to seek further education or study in a certain area which I don't understand.
Yeah, there are quite a number of people who maybe share your kinds of interests. They are called non-resistant non-believers, and the argument from divine hiddenness, which is a different argument from the free will omniscience paradox, but in its turn essentially posits that Yes, the deities had the power and the will and so on to convert people and bring them to him or save them from eternal damnation. It would be able to carry out the revelation effectively, where there are people who essentially can't determine the answer despite their best efforts and openness to the answer. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, if we look into problems, things which don't make sense, I believe that there's always a truth behind something. So, for example, there are things in nature which we do not currently understand, but I believe through investigation and through a process of elimination, we will narrow down on what that truth is, and I believe it always comes back to God. Because I say this very broadly because I'm not going into specific details, but it always comes down to law and order. It's very highly specific, it's highly ordered, it's orchestrated in such a way that it's perfected, and the errors which we observe, we ourselves acknowledge to be errors. And what is an error? An error is something which has deviated from its regulatory course of performance. So if God has created us to be healthy and well, anytime we go into a doctor to seek medical attention for whatever ailments we might be suffering from, we are confirming that we have been created and designed well. The error is in itself confirmation that there's a deviation from the regulatory way in which we've been designed to function, which is we've been designed well, but there is sin in the world, and that does affect us. Okay?
That takes quite a bit of, well, if not assumption, then I guess quite a specific perspective, because I show you Neil deGrasse Tyson's video regarding, I guess, the evaluation of quality of design of not just human beings, but the universe. There's, quite some trouble with also, I guess, the idea that you have, I don't know, this intention to save all. I think you mentioned a sort of universalist intention. If it, well, given omniscience and all that, wouldn't essentially, whatever device is needed to make to convince or whatever, be available to this deity, so it's never thwarted, and it's pretty. There are a lot of questions come around, go into other arguments beyond free will versus omniscience, but I guess now that Art's signed off, we can branch out into multiple arguments and so on, if you're willing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, yeah, I didn't mean to derail the conversation. But I was just speaking about design, in as far as I was bringing to attention when we're speaking about human nature, and we're speaking about these. I think it actually does play into what we were saying before about free will, because I believe that by, like I said, by going to see a doctor, we're following through on that initial understanding that things are created. Now, of course, you can say that's to be disputed, but I think if we acknowledge any errors in the human being, be it a sickness, be it a manky limb, be it a wonky eye, whatever it might be, by observation of an error, we are making the distinction. There's an error, by definition, is something which has failed. It is in opposition to regulatory performance or function of something. So when we're talking about an error in a human, we're acknowledging We're bringing it to acknowledgement that there is a necessary way in which we have been designed, which is the absence. Now, everybody who will die. It doesn't matter if you eat healthy or you don't eat healthy. Your body is going to die. But what we're promised through Christianity, through Christ, is that if we put our faith and trust in Christ, we are promised a body which is absent from any sickness, but is actually it's a glorified body, in that it would be fit to be before God, a clean body, clean from sickness, clean from suffering, and all these things. Now, I understand that atheists will say, well, that's wishful thinking. Well, I beg to differ, because there's a difference between wishful thinking and hope. Hope, which is founded well in something which is sound, is good thinking. I wouldn't say it's wishful thinking, because yes, it might be absent from direct observations, but when we are making a deduction based upon what we do know, and I'm speaking about the errors, and it comes in clarification with the design of the human being, I believe it makes logical sense to say that we are well designed, and that itself, again, I might quickly just jump back to 1:20, where it says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen." Now you might say, how clearly seen? They're clearly seen by, it follows them by saying, by the things which are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So I believe that we are all without excuse, but and that just from what is made, we can acknowledge that God exists, and that He is the Creator, and that He is the Godhead above all things, and that if we seek Him through Christ Jesus, as He promises, we shall find Him. And it's quite a mouthful, yes, I acknowledge, but yeah.
Well, the good news is I don't have ADHD. Now, one of the troubles is it presumes that all these things that are essentially characterizations of bad design are effectively acknowledgments of failure to execute some kind of design. And, well, that's not if that's the case, where you can pretty demonstrably go on about, say, going apart from life, sort of conditions of the universe, and it's rather clearly they're not any kind of attempt to enable the development of life, but rather that these are inanimate things governed by rather comprehensible kinds of physical laws, at least relative to say life itself, and
Yeah.
you can essentially deduce from this they're mindlessly going on about the process of star formation and whatnot, and planetary formation, in ways that don't serve any kind of purpose. In fact,
Well, hang on.
That,
if I just jump in a second, you say they don't serve any necessary purpose. I could equally say that you're saying that from a position of, like we said before, a paradox. These things are, but you might say they have no purpose. But I believe they do have purpose. I believe we seek for purposes, that we find them. Lovely art there, Benny. He's a good artist, is Benny. I've seen a few of his drawings come up in the on his thing, on his little picture there. I don't know how he does it. It was very good.
Well, we either have it or don't. I mean, you can. Is there anything that would have a purpose according to your standards? And, when evaluation it goes on by essentially essentially the elimination of any kind of mind from the process of things like star and planetary formation. And these are not biological. You can pretty
Oh
easily
yeah.
see there's not a brain involved and so on. And it gets a little bit worse because
Well,
let's
hang on.
say that
Sorry, but you said they haven't got a brain involved. But what experiment have you done or have you seen which confirms there's no mind involved? Because as far as I can see, and I come back to this equation again because I think it's incredibly necessary that we acknowledge that the godless model, that is the model without information in it, is simply T plus E plus M equals life and meaning and sense. But of course that doesn't make sense. That's completely devoid of logic. We know that that all things which are made have purpose to a person or convey information through a medium from one mind to another. Now, you look at creation, we see the added ingredient here is information. So when we look at life, we see there's DNA, we see that it's rich in information, we see that single genes, and even so, the histones now, they've recently started looking into the histone marks. Upon these histone marks that coil up, which the DNA wraps around to form the chromosomes, has additional input in this information. So there's even higher levels of information aboard the DNA itself. This is all interesting because if we didn't believe, if you truly believed there was no information in it, we shouldn't be seeking for it, and we certainly shouldn't be able to make any sense. But the actual fact is looking at the natural world around us, coming to the realize can make sense. Now, how is it something in your mind, in your skull, your grey matter, your brain? How is it that your brain can make sense of the world around you, unless it is sensible? Because it is sensible, it only makes sense that it can itself. If you're saying you're making sense of the unsensible, then it doesn't make sense. In fact, it's completely contradictory to the claim. So far as I can, a godless model is completely devoid of any truth. I have to stand by and say there's information. I have to stand by that there is intelligence, there is a mind, and that I would continuously look here because the most fruitful in all our endeavours of science.
Okay, well, in that case, well, there are quite a number of different points along which I could respond.
But would you agree?
One, of course,
Would you agree to that? Would you agree to that?
No.
So if I would ask you then for an example of just give me a formula then for a godless model which doesn't make sense but actually comes to make sense, because that is contradictory in itself. But if you could show me a persuasive equation that I could look at and I could make sense of myself, then I could take it more sensibly. But I don't believe humans as people, I don't believe we actually take this godless model seriously. Because science, we're ever looking for information, we're ever understanding and making sense of what is, by the atheist's deduction, godless. Now, if it's godless, it should have no information, no sense to it. If it has sense, something which is uniquely human to our intuition and understanding, then it must be made by something which is sensible. Now that's a logical deduction.
If I care to be disrespectful, I could, claim the reverse regarding your not taking your model seriously. I mean, it says
no, I don't mean that.
Just rather than look on somebody with lust. And I don't see a whole lot of people plucking out their eyes. I don't see, people castrating themselves like Origin routinely enough, or passions in the desert, or anything of the sort.
No,
what we do see is people essentially acting as if deities aren't there, or ignoring the relevance or presuming the relevance of a deity and going on about the world
forgive me for
pretty much scientific models held. And even beyond that, I mean, You can like throw in Sheeper's fine tuning if yeah, the universe actually did have to be carefully designed for it to bring about life, and tuning all these constants and such in your DDC, subject to the laws and principles and so on, in which these constants interoperate, and is they're not therefore not all powerful, because otherwise it would have just chosen principles that were better to, or more, made it easier to actually bring about life and so on.
But that's a very emotional argument. I'm talking about something which is quantifiable, something which is understandable. It's something we can. If you gave me a falsifiable model, I'd be able to look into it and see if it's true or false. Now, what I'm saying is, and please forgive me because I think you understood me wrong. When I said. When I said that nobody takes it seriously, what I meant was actually, not hypothetically, because I do believe that you actually believe there's no God. I believe, and I respect that you believe that. What I'm saying is that nobody takes it seriously actually, in regards to, in science and in the reality in which we live, when we are looking at nature and anything of mathematics or a bit quantum physics, whatever it is, we are trying to make sense of it. Now, when we do make sense of it, what we discover is that it is sensible, that it holds information, that it is guided by laws, has a governing direction in which things perform. And you can go through chemical analogies for this as well, but I'm not going to allude to that direction. What I'm simply saying is nobody takes it seriously in an actual sense. So if you could give me an equation, something I could look at myself and show me how it could be falsified, taking seriously this belief you have, then I would not rudely discard it. I would look into it. But what I'm saying is, scientifically and in the reality we live, we don't take the model seriously. There isn't one. The one in which we live is rich, and so that's what I'm saying is, I do ask you, I didn't mean to offend you when I said it seriously, but I think I clarified that.
Last I checked, people took the scientific models pretty seriously. Regard modern medicine is what makes the difference between life and death. They regard essentially electromagnetic theories as the basis of their careers, and while social lives, with respect to cell phones and computers, regard, frankly, nuclear physics is the source of all their power and electricity, or whatever you want to call it. Regard, maybe you could call it network and link analysis, what crafts apart the social networks of terrorists, so that people don't get blown up randomly on the way to work. Or so I think people do take science very seriously, and they act based on it, and in accordance with that, the belief that it does work. Go ahead.
I don't know what to say to that, because again, it's to me it sounds like a very emotional, grounded argument, whereas what I'm asking for is something which is universally we can all look at, something which is, again, like I said, falsifiable. If it's an equation you can give to me which I can look at and then apply it to reality, then I might be able to look at it further. But as far as what I can see, there's nothing which is taken seriously in that regard within science, because we're always looking at where is this information? Is there information? What does this information mean? And we're looking at genes. We're looking at how they're expressed, what they do, what certain genes code for what proteins. where these proteins align, how they're laid out, how they're folded. We're always looking at how and where and why. And the very fact we can do that and make it comprehensible shows us that what we're looking at is comprehensible, irrespective of our beliefs. We're finding that it holds given functions, it holds truth to it. So it's not something. I'm not coming at it from an emotional argument. I'm coming at it from my understanding of what science is and how it works, how it operates. So what I want to see from an atheist is how I could take atheism seriously, given the science we do and how it is sensible.
Actually, I don't believe that science is evolved enough or advanced enough to prove whether there's a God or not. You know, other than that, science keeps trying to prove what it doesn't understand.
Yeah.
You know,
sure,
like,
but
like I just posted there, the God particle. You know, it's something that a lot of people didn't believe existed. But now they can prove it. You know, one day they may be able to prove that there is a
Very few understood what's being talked about with it before or after its discovery.
Yeah. But like I said, one way or another, in the future, science may be able to prove there is a God and may be able to prove that there isn't technically. I mean, you know, people will still probably disagree with it one way or another.
Science
I
cuts
tend to
in
believe
a very
that
different direction.
God in a sense, but my beliefs are a little different than the church. But you know, and I still consider myself Christian.
The questions about information and all this science accounting for it and so on are a bit preposterous because, I mean, the entire second law of thermodynamics is description of behavior of Boltzmann entropy as observed in practice. And that Boltzmann entropy is information, right? In fact, rather quantitative theories of information are utilized in the sciences, in particular, for stochastic mechanics and so on. I mean, to the sciences, information is not only not a nebulous concept. It's comprehensible, and its behavior is being described as, and nothing that science has determined about information lines up with the theistic notions and like the fall.
Well, I think we can split hairs on this, and it's a good conversation and go on and on. But I do have to go to bed. It's 1 o'clock in the morning now, and I have young children, so I'm going to have to depart from you. But it's been very nice speaking with you, and I thank you for talking with me. I enjoyed the conversation. It's always nice to speak to people, regardless of whether we agree or not. It's lovely to engage people and have a good dialogue. It's nice to meet some people you can speak with who it's not a hostile environment. It's nice. It's a quiet and cozy environment. So I'll say goodbye and God bless, and thanks for the talk. Hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Take care.
All right, and hopefully, continue acknowledging Catholics and giving them full validity, because my friends Fiona and Epi are not people I will tolerate being disparaged. Okay. Have a good night.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, Fritz, I know you've got eschatology. At some point, line up on the Catholics, they're people too.
Oh.
Okay, probably not the scriptural defense of Catholics, but in a way, it's not trying to engage in some kind of I don't know propagation of my own Catholicism. I mean, it's not like I believe in it, but geez. I'm not going to defend Chinese folk religion or Hinduism either. So I think Fritz is our primary theist left here. Josiah might be commenting in the text chat.
Well,
Okay, since theists are staying relatively quiet, what does everybody think of the... Oh, wait, I think Jeff's a theist, aren't you?
what's that?
You're a theist, aren't you?
Oh, I
I'm sorry.
consider myself to be a Christian. I just don't believe, or should I say my beliefs are a little different than the Catholic Church. I still believe in the teachings of Jesus. I don't see anything wrong with what he said. I
Are you
don't.
more aligned with Orthodox, or...
Well, I mean, I know somebody tried to, they've tried to put me in a certain box or label me somehow, but I still consider myself a Christian. Just simply because I believe in the teachings of Christ. I don't believe that I have to literally go by everything that's in the Bible. I don't believe that I have to go to church. I have gone to church when I was younger. I have problems with the church, and the church has problems with me over things. So,
The Catholic Church, or...
Yeah, the Catholic Church, Christian Church, whichever you prefer to call it. Like I said, my cousin is Pope John Paul. My family's very religious, but I have had problems with the church ever since I was a child.
Huh.
But I still believe in the teachings of Jesus. But for me, I believe that as long as you do what's right in your life, you should be all right. Whether you believe in a God or not, if there's a God, you'll be accepted. Doesn't really matter what religion you live, as long as you do what's right. That's simple.
Yeah, some respects. I think you're saying you're Protestant, non-denominational Protestant, but...
No, I'm not Protestant. I was actually baptized as Methodist, but that has nothing to do with my beliefs. People try to label you. People try to label me. I find it very amusing how they do that. I believe God is the universe, and the universe is God. But they call me what is that? A
pantheist.
Yeah, pantheist. And I don't see myself as that neither.
Methodists are Protestant.
If I wasn't used to it, at one time I probably got a little irritated about it, but nowadays I just am kind of used to it.
You do realize that describing your own doctrine is effectively impossible without this kind of vocabulary.
That describing my own, I couldn't hear you.
Describing your own doctrinal stances is effectively impossible without using this kind of vocabulary.
No, I don't think it's impossible. I mean, but I still see myself as a Christian and Christian belief. That's, I mean, I think people think that just strictly believing in the Bible, going to church, doing what Christians do, generally, they think that is Christian, and that you can't be Christian any other way unless you go by those rules and laws. I don't believe that. I believe what is right and what is, really out there is really a Christian belief.
I find that confusing, not just in terms of you, Jeff, but, at least in the United States over the last, 20, 30 years, they've called it like the smorgasbord of religion, where people kind of go from one congregation to another till they find the right fit. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it is interesting that very often, for example, somebody will dedicate themselves to a certain church and a certain denomination, but they'll still hold very different, disparate views. For example, they might think, well, non-Christians do get into heaven, or yes, reincarnation is real. So we do have this kind of potluck going on in society with belief right now.
Yeah, I understand that. Yes, I understand that. But I don't really follow any. I can't say that I follow any real church or any real denomination. I really don't follow anybody other than myself. I only go by what I believe, and that's all there is to it. Yeah. I do believe in the teachings of Jesus. I believe what he taught was, good, moral. I believe in a lot of people that teach moral things too, but I just don't follow anybody really. I don't follow any denomination, at all.
So do you have any, a doctrinal or scriptural basis for your belief in free will?
In free will?
Or do you just use your own personal experience of having free will on a daily basis as part of your psychology of making choices? Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess the original topic was related to free will.
Free will, I mean, to a certain degree, I believe, everything's kind of predestiny, like you said before. I think it's all sort of planned. What's going to happen tomorrow is what's going to happen, no matter what you do. If you change your mind about something, that was destiny, that you changed your mind. If you choose to do wrong, that was predestiny. I
take issue with that a little bit. I don't think there's a way to know. It could be predestined. It could be absolutely determined. That's true. But my personal conception is that there's more evidence to suggest that the universe is unfolding as part of a causal process. So we know that all events that occur in space-time have causes that contributed to it, and everything in space-time, the universe itself, is essentially existing in codependent relations with every other atom, every other molecule, etc. So it's this giant, essentially, pinball machine happening. That's not to say that it isn't absolutely deterministic, but it's possible that there are true elements of randomness that may be happening, at least in physical phenomenon like, storms and things like that.
Well, I think nobody can really explain all that randomness. I think a lot of that randomness that people call it really does have a mathematical equation to it.
Yeah, that's the question. So certainly they've changed it from chaos to now the term is complexity. And the question is, does true randomness exist? It doesn't seem to at the macro level, but it may exist at the micro level of particles. So for example, there are particles that are emitted into space from a non-local so-called quantum foam, something like that, near a black hole. And instead of being eradicated because of particles and antiparticles, theoretically some of those particles manage to escape, and they've actually become material in our space out of some other, dimension, essentially.
Right.
But the idea that things that happen at the nanoscale, the quantum scale, have a significant effect, like the butterfly effect, for example, at the macro level, is very questionable.
Yeah. I think everything affects everything in a certain manner. I mean, of course, like you said, the butterfly effect,
That's how I came to determinism. What is that pretty much? Experience from every effect before.
Oh, hold on. Hello? What's up?
There, I don't want to hear his conversation. Oh god, no, I don't hear my dogs either.
Well, given that this is given that this is kind of winding down, you want to drop by Carlton's information and DNA?
Oh, right on. Did we ever get any further?
I will. Thanks, Carlton. Actually, I think it's Aaron's, but okay.
Did you ever get any further on the free will thingy with Richard?
Not very much.
I told him hopefully I'll talk to him in the future. And
I branched it out to some other arguments.
He can either point out my flaws or I can help him understand his. And those Cheerios look awesome. I've never seen chocolate Cheerios before.
Pretty good.
Actually,
Yeah.
I don't think Jeff wants me passing Nuke around.
What's that?
Sorry, I don't think. Well, let me check in with Aaron.
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, I've got another hangout going. Should I just like merge the whole thing or what? Like Xbox and Hazy Wolf and Fritz and Jeff.
Nice.
You asked me if
Okay.
What you said?
Oh yeah, ISIS is double fisting too. Yeah.
What's going on?
No, she's talking to another hangout.
Rick, you asked me if Jesus died for my sins?
Well, ISIS is double fisting also though.
Thank you, Nutty.
Yeah.
Yup, did Jesus die for your sins and was he raised from the dead?
I don't believe Jesus died.
So there was no sacrifice.
Jeff, you are not a Christian. You are
Yeah.
not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. You can call me whatever you like.
But if there was no death, is there no sacrifice there? I mean, doesn't that get rid of the
I
sacrifice?
believe that Jesus was crucified, but I believe he survived.
Jeff, you do not understand what Christianity is. You are not a true Christian.
So Jesus wasn't raised from the dead.
You can say that I'm not a true Christian, but, you know, I laugh at that one. Because you can't tell me what I am.
You're not properly using the word, Jeff.
Yeah, that's better.
I'm not properly using the word.
Well, that's problematic because, Mormons call themselves Christians and consider themselves Christian, and at this point, I think it's changing, at least in the U.S. Well, historically, other Christian denominations said they're not Christians, they're a cult. Now they're saying giving them some, element of being Christian. Even if it's just political correctness, they may completely disagree that they are ultimately Christians, but it just doesn't matter political correctness.
As far as I'm concerned, anybody that believes in Jesus and the teachings of Jesus is a Christian. He's following Jesus. He's following the teachings. That is Christian. That is a Christian belief.
Okay, you can call that Christianity, but what I'm saying is that you're not actually.
Let me explain something to you. If you are Muslim, but you don't believe in everything that is in the Muslim Quran, like it says to beat your wife, do you mean that you're not a Muslim if you don't believe in beating your wife? Simple question.
I'm not going to debate Islam with you. I think that's false as well. I'm saying that
there is a historic element to Christianity as a mythology and as a belief system that suggests that, the part of it was that the idea that Jesus died for the sins of man and was resurrected by God. That's the basic idea, is that he was the Messiah, and he fulfilled that prophecy.
Well, that's the basic thing in the Bible, yes. That's what they write. And there are some things that I disagree with in the Bible. I don't believe that certain things happened a certain historical way. We have history books that are written, and some of them are wrong, which I've proven some of them are quite wrong. And remember, the Bible was written by man, not by the hand of God. And it was, so there are mistakes made in it, even historically, and we know that. Even
Well, I
most
agree with you, but there are some Christians that will say, no, it is literally the Word of God.
well, some of them will, and there are some of them that will say there are mistakes in there, and they've proven it through history. You know, historians have proven there are some mistakes made. I've believed that Jesus survived the crucifixion since I was probably 3 years old, as far back as I can remember. And that's one of the reasons why the church and I don't get along too well.
That sounds like Islamic teaching.
Well, I'm certainly not Islamic. I don't believe in Muhammad's crap. Muhammad was a soldier, and he believed in murdering people that don't believe in what he believed in. I don't believe in that.
Your sins are not covered by Jesus. If you were to die tonight, you would go straight to hell.
So, Fritz, are you aware of any other groups, including possibly Christian denominations, that might hold that belief that Jesus didn't die, that, for example, it was somebody else up there?
That's ridiculous.
Well, this is what the Muslims have suggested, right? But I'm thinking in terms of like all the other weird little sects and Gnostic groups that develop. Maybe there are some that actually, you know, for example.
Yeah, but it's utterly ridiculous. Like competent historians are saying that, or like, and no one's arguing that position like competently, as far as I'm aware, unless you guys.
Well, it's fine. I mean, I was just questioning whether you knew of any other groups that might hold that belief. So, for example, I don't know how that belief arose in the Islamic tradition, but I'm guessing that if those cultures collectively felt that was the way it went down, maybe the Marianites or maybe those that worship John of the Cross, maybe some of the other groups from that area, you know, would have had a similar belief.
That's all like mystery religion, like false teachings, doctrines of demons.
Well, to you, right? But to them, it's their religion.
Yeah, well, I call that a false religion.
Oh. But what the difference is, I mean, is essentially just that, you know, you favor one, really. You ascribe.
No, the truth is singular, Nadia.
Well, I'm aware of your slogans, but you know they don't really establish your point any better.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there might be any other historic elements of early Christianity that might have had a similar view. That perhaps, you know, some way of explaining the crucifixion away as, you know, it wasn't the resurrection per se, but that he wasn't really up there, or that some other magic act took place.
Yeah, it's too far-fetched. Doesn't even look logical that could be the case.
Half of his position.
Well, yeah, I don't understand why you would say that when we know that Islam, that is the view of Islam, and there's a lot of Islamic people that believe exactly that, billions.
Yeah, but Islam was warned about 500 years before it began. When fire and angels from heaven come preaching any other gospel than that which you have received, let him be accursed. And when Muhammad received that gospel, he got it from like an angel of light who was Lucifer, and he went back and told his wife about it, and his wife convinced him that it was an angel. And actually, in their religion, a woman's testimony is worth just about nothing. So either he believed in a woman who's according to their own religion, testimony was worth nothing, or it was Lucifer. So either way, Islam is completely false. And I forget the second part of your question there.
Hi, J-Dubs.
Yeah, my question was just whether there were any other historic elements of Christianity that might have held a similar belief. I honestly don't know. I was just being theoretical. I assumed that maybe there were, because, you know, there have been a lot of, I mean, for example, the Cathars, right, and the different Gnostic communities, they have some very different kind of ideas as well.
Yeah, there's always there will always be secret societies, certain groups that will have all those false teachings that Jesus never died and this and that, like, but no one really takes that very seriously. Jesus
We say
himself,
no one, but the Cathars did, and the Gnostics did, and there are some that still do. I mean, they are small populations, but
yeah, but the Gnostics, like even in Paul's letters, he was like reprimanding or whatever the Gnostics for like adding and subtracting from the Gospels and from the Scriptures. Like he was giving them shit basically for adding and subtracting from the Scriptures. So it's kind of known that that's what they were doing, and also I would say Jesus predicted his death. So to say that he didn't die would be to call Jesus a liar. So.
Well, how many Christians believe like you do?
Well, anyone who's saved believes that Jesus died for their sins and was resurrected.
Well, it doesn't give a very, firm estimate. I mean, you can say, only a dozen are saved, or maybe 144,000.
I'd say 1 in 8.
So are there any Christians that could believe in something like gay marriage, in your view?
Don't Catholics?
No, they don't.
Not yet, but maybe.
Some Catholics?
But certainly in California, I'm sure there's a lot of Catholics that go to church on a weekly basis who probably do believe that.
Yeah. I think a lot of their churches have been excommunicated for that.
May even be gay. And once they're excommunicated, they're no longer Catholic. But anyway.
Well, so my point was not.
Let me see if I can remember where you stand on all this. You are young Earth creationist, is that right?
Correct.
Everything's down quite a bit. Say you were annihilationist or general salvation?
Annihilationist.
Annihilationist? Okay.
Yeah. But I won't die on that hill, though.
Not sure you have to. It's just that it does narrow the field of Christians who believe like you do quite a bit. You say you're a Calvinist, Arminian, or Molinist?
Calvinist.
Calvinist?
Were you
okay,
raised?
So narrows it down quite a bit too. Preterist or futurist?
Futurist.
Futurist? Okay, that's pretty common. But you got 3 issues: creation, annihilationism, and Calvinism.
Those are yours, Natty.
You're in that's the intersection of 3 minorities, and pretty far down in terms of numbers. I would not say 1 in 8 is very accurate. I couldn't give you a hard number, but 1 in 8 sounds like a large overestimate.
How do I make that little title thing like you have, so I can put young Earth creationist, Calvinist, heterosexual, deprogrammer?
Well, you use a transparent image. I think JPEG, GIF, and PNGs are accepted, and basically anything you want video to show through, you have is transparent, and then anything that you want to have as part of your preset image, like the text that you want to appear, is not transparent. And the size has to be, I think, 640 by 360. And once you do that, the Hangout lower third tab within the Hangout toolbox has a custom overlay option that you use to load the image or overlay it over your video stream.
Where do you do that? Is it in your Google Plus profile?
It's not in your profile. You actually have to set it up almost every time new.
Oh, I see.
I'll screen share momentarily and show you.
That's a pro move.
Okay, so here we go. Here is the Hangout toolbox, and well, I think normally it'll load up like somewhere like here. Yeah, comment tracker or the about section, right? Those are the two most common it preloads as. The one to load into for real though is basically this far left tab for the lower third part, right? And in this lower third part, you have your custom overlay. You can choose the image file to overlay over your video stream. Transparency lets you see through to your video stream. On and off button, once you've chosen the file, it says whether or not you're actually overlaying it. And this gives you a mirror image versus not mirror image, which you can't really see because I'm not there, but and that's the part of basically how you load it. And there's more to it, of course, because creating the image itself is kind of a task. So.
Thank you, Nadia. That was great.
Very informative.
Yeah, creating the image. Using graphics programs that I'm not very good at using, so.
Welcome back, Jeff.
I couldn't really do a very effective walkthrough.
Jeff, sorry I muted you because we could hear your background. Anyways, Fritz, were you raised with the beliefs that you currently hold, or did you essentially find your own way and discover your own current belief system?
Yeah, I was raised basically like agnostic, atheist. Say when I was probably 25, I'd say.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I used to sit in biology class in college beside a Christian girl, and I would try to argue with her as an atheist. That was the year I was saved.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was on the phone. I should have muted myself there.
No problem.
Yeah.
Oh. I think I've gone over my story on the belief front. Okay, quick recap. Parents were nominal something. Father Protestant, mother Catholic. Usual sin all you want, confess on Sunday Catholicism. Except she hadn't been to confession in 20 plus years. And father was so vague and non-devout, and not sure he even cared what denominations, churches he showed up to for the weddings and funerals. So that was about how much they cared, and of course, with that little attempt to impress you with it, nothing sank in. Before my earliest memories, or before my memories became continuous and so on, so I had an idea of what I believed when. I remember an incident of declaring myself an atheist and so on. Never come to believe since. So.
Now he's going to be saved, though.
What?
You're going to be saved, though.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I think.
Well, it's a matter of predestination, from what I understood of what you were suggesting before. So it would be part of a causal process that she has no control over, right?
Yeah, I think you should just stop struggling against it, Nadia.
What makes you think I struggle against it? my struggles are in a very different area, like getting a job against the headwinds of, rather brutal employment discrimination. Healthcare for in a right-wing, basically fascist country like the U.S., which pretty much says, 100,000 bodies a year, no problem. We got, housing and, well, the face of all that too, which is, well, fortunately, the eviction process hasn't got over yet, but, there's time's pretty limited. You get the idea. Those are my struggles. The question of whether there's, some kind of irrelevant magician out there somewhere is not really a big question on my mind.
You could put your faith and hope and trust in God to help you find work.
And yeah, that's an interesting idea, but generally the hiring managers are the big issue. Okay.
Yeah, well, God has a way of moving people's hearts, and working all things towards good for those who love Him and trust and hope in Him.
Well, Fritz, you religious then? I couldn't tell.
You asking me or?
No, I said Fritz, are you religious? Sounds like you are.
I wouldn't call myself religious. I'm saved by Jesus.
Okay. Well, what do you consider yourself?
I consider myself saved by Jesus' sacrifice, and Jesus is Lord, and I'm just spreading the gospel and trying to save sinners from the wrath to come unless they turn to the Lord.
How couldn't someone consider themselves like a Christian?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Believe in Jesus and follow Jesus or whatever, but to consider themselves damned, let's say because they know in their mind, but they can't truly believe in their heart. Why can't a Christian consider themselves Christian, but still consider themselves damned?
Because we have total assurance and trust and hope and faith in what Jesus did. It's adequate and it's sufficient. And we have complete faith in that and hope and trust in that, 100%.
But you could have that complete. Well, actually, hang on. You can you generally don't get quite all that in terms of distinguishing who's Christian and who's not, right? So you can have somebody who lacks various of those faith and hopes and trust, and actually cites that as evidence of their damnation. But otherwise, kind of knows in their mind and chooses to follow Jesus Christ and call themselves a Christian. Therefore, why couldn't you have a Christian like that who believes they're damned?
Well, so you sort of can. I would say that I followed Jesus Christ for a number of years before I really realized I was saved. But it's really hard to tell when exactly you were saved sometimes. But it's like an assurance that you have in your heart at one point. You know what I mean?
Bear with me, I'm double fisting hangouts.
I suppose from a Calvinistic point of view, I was always saved, and it was just a matter of coming to the point of really realizing it.
Oh, sure, but you can, regard, various things as evidence of, salvation versus damnation in the Calvinist framework, right? you have,
Yeah.
of course, insight into your own internal psychology.
Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Sorry?
Sorry, Nadia, please go ahead.
You expect quite a number of things to go on. You know, you've got your faith without works being dead. You've got, of course, the insight into one's own heart and so on. And you could say, hi, Jim. You could say that this hypothetical Christian could, atop knowing their own heart, see that the fruits are, as filthy rags and such, and say, well, the evidence is, it's all garbage that I'm putting out, and don't actually feel it in my heart, and therefore damned.
That's like the first stage.
Welcome back, Jim. Fritz, I didn't know that, and forgive me if I misunderstood, but I thought that Calvinists, even a Calvinist, wouldn't know whether they're saved or not, technically.
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
You don't. You really do know when you're saved. Like when you know, you know. It's like in the other video I posted, God is right in front of your eyes. It's like when you see it, you see it. You can't really deny it at that point.
Yeah, I have no idea what the scriptural salvation or justification is, because I mean, to some extent, it's kind of an alien cultural affair. But anyway, I've talked to enough Calvinists to hear that what is it? They can't really know about anybody else, but for themselves, I think their own personal revelations somehow include information about their salvation. So,
that's interesting.
In which case, yeah.
It says here, if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. So you have to confess Jesus is Lord and believe it in your heart that God hath raised him from the dead, and you're saved. So when that belief comes, when that something shifts in you, and that you're granted that belief in that, that's the moment.
What the hell? Everybody get blocked? Or I mean, muted? Or did it just freeze?
No, I'm still here. I think people voluntarily muted themselves, and somebody in the audience joined the audience view of the live hangout and upvoted it with an applaud.
Oh yeah, that would be me. That would be me. How y'all doing on a fine and lovely day that the Lord has made? Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Yee-haw!
Yeah.
Well, somebody's enthusiastic.
Always. I'm always enthusiastic about the God of creation, the God of salvation, the God of the Bible.
Oh, and of course, the God of the gaps.
Not familiar with God of the gaps there.
It's a philosophical term, which is, for those phenomena you can't explain, then you use God to explain it.
Well, I have no problem explaining things.
Of course, any gap you would have, you fill with God. That's what the God of the gaps means. So, yeah, all the oddities around the idea of salvation are, by and large, just kind of let go, worrying past me or whatever. But there's probably something to latch onto and press his issues with the logical coherence of the whole position or worldview or whatever.
logical coherence. Yeah, I like that terminology.
So, when you have pride in something, never mind it being according to, I guess, various Christian theologies as a deadly sin. Yeah, doesn't it tend to be something that you, intended and accomplished? Isn't it?
Well, when you think about pride being some kind of sin, you need to understand it for what it is when it is sinful. When you pride yourself, let's say, on your money or on your ability to make money, then you have basically taken God out of the equation, and you have based all your faith and everything that you are on your ability to make more money or make that money. Put your pride in.
Taking God out of the equation and base your identity and everything that you are on your heterosexuality.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. No, what I'm saying is that we have a legitimate right to stand up and be proud for heterosexual marriage. Not just because it's something to be proud of, which it is, but it's also something that is very much needed in our culture, in our society, in our world.
They have divine sanction to commit a deadly sin of pride for
without it, our entire society collapses.
And when did you decide to become straight, and what process did you undergo to?
Well, see, that's the whole thing there, Nadia. We are all born heterosexual. No, I didn't have to choose to be straight. I was born that way. No, you chose to be homosexual. You chose to make very, very much detrimental changes to your body, but that was your choice to do so.
I am not homosexual. But moving on. Even so, you claim there's an asymmetry that you were quote unquote born heterosexual, but those who are
all
homosexual are not born so.
There is not one person on this planet that's not born heterosexual.
Are you seriously going to look at Richard Simmons or Ellen DeGeneres and tell me that?
Yep, I sure am. They chose their particular lifestyle, just as you chose yours.
There's a question of free will there. Calvinists, please do attack. Oh yeah, we've got a room full of Calvinists.
Oh, I try to keep life real simple. I think people make life too complicated.
Yeah, Calvinism is simple. God did it.
I don't know about anybody else's beliefs, but I just try to keep my life real simple. My life has been complicated enough and thrown into so much complication that if I don't try to keep it complicated, simple, it would be so complicated that even I wouldn't understand it.
Well, Einstein's whole as simple as possible dictum had a second half to it that makes the entire point, actually. The actual message is in that second half. But no simpler.
Well, complicated enough.
The entire
complicated
slogan.
Complication to it, let's put it that way.
The entire slogan was a warning against oversimplification.
Nadia, do you believe in right and wrong?
Of course.
a real objective right and wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, I can skip my entire first point.
Funny thing is I don't think anybody would have answered that question whether they were moral or not. They would have answered it the same way. Even if you were immoral and you were asked that question, you'd answer it the same way.
Real question is, what do you think right and wrong is?
Actually, the real question is who decides what is right and what is wrong?
Nadia, do you believe in a moral law?
Or does God?
I would say that there's the form of morality is not precisely law.
How would you define morality, I guess?
Well, law is characterized by, say, definite source of rules, imperatives, or rather commands, and so on. Obligations and duties and such are, well, less a matter of law than prohibitions. Or in the case of morality, obligations and duties are a critical whole, like half of it, or something on that order. Another distinction between morality and law is that, well, again, even in the case of, say, prohibitions, there's something of an imperative, namely, don't do that, where morality has more of a question of evaluation, where it tries to go about characterizing the worth or value and such of a course of actions or events and so on. And last but not least, the ultimate source of things like laws or things like lawgivers, where, at least as I believe it, morality derives essentially from nature, from the a priori, from carrying out analysis of what's best and right to have in the world, and what's intolerable and must be as far as we can eradicated from the world. And those things are well-being and joy that we need to be promoting, and suffering and harm that we need to be preventing and such. So it derives from the natural. It's entirely objective.
It derives from a natural law. Is that what you said? A natural objective law?
Well, as I said, it's not law. But
you don't like the word law?
Not because, well, it's not because I don't like the word law. It's because law doesn't properly characterize it.
Because you don't like the word law because it doesn't properly characterize it, because you have a choice to break it, right? Like, you don't have a choice whether or not to break the law of gravity or whether or not to break the law of electromagnetism, but you do have a choice to break this law. So therefore, you don't like to call it a law. Is that accurate?
No. Yeah, like I said, there's the points I raised, said this has a different character from law, or sets of duties and obligations that are not present in, or at least much diminished in ordinary law. There are, matter of evaluation. There are sort of a criteria, framework of analysis, and so on to characterize things beyond just sort of like prohibitions and such. And they are also the source is not some kind of governing authority. It's in effect well, not natural than a priori considerations. Go ahead.
I guess the thing I'm trying to point to, Nadia, is like the thing that when you have a choice, say there's someone's in a struggle, in a fight, and you have a choice to, on the one hand, to help them out, right? That's one of your instincts, and then you have another instinct that says, no, stay away, to preserve yourself so that you don't get injured. So you have those two instincts going on, but then there's a third thing, which is what I would call the moral law, the thing that actually tells you to override the weaker of those instincts, right? The one that says just to preserve yourself. There's a third thing going on in your mind that will tell you to override that impulse. That I would call the moral law. Do you believe that exists?
To the extent it does, I don't believe it's got any basis in what I'd really call morality or genuine morality. I think you're driving at an alien concept there.
Do you recognize that within yourself, though, that thing which tells you to override, your instinct to not get involved and to do the right thing? Do you recognize that within yourself?
I recognize no such thing. The same thought process is there all the way down.
Yes, dear.
Then I don't know. I guess then my only explanation for you is that you're blind to the moral law. You're blind. You've been blind. You're spiritually blind.
Oh, well, if she wants to get up, I'll come and get her. She does want to get up?
Okay. I'll just pray for you.
Hang on a second. All right, hang on, I'm coming.
Yeah, I see my thought process is unified, not at war with itself. There's not a multiple personality disorder where a good version of myself and bad one are battling it out. There's essentially to the extent there are divisions, they are not along personal lines like that.
That's funny. Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure what Jim's up to.
Oh, I'm just making some coffee. A man's only as good as his jug of coffee. I got a monster one right there. That and my dog needed to play with her toy. I got her a new toy today. She likes to chase squirrels. So my wife and I got her a stuffed squirrel, and I just gave it to her, and she's in there tearing into it.
Yeah, let me check in on the other hangout for a little bit here.
Where's the other link? Who's in that room? Well,
That's a deep subject. Get it? Well.
that, them that are without law is without law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without law. So yeah. So I guess you don't have the moral law. Is that right, Christian Hillbilly? Do the unbelievers, the unsaved, do they just not have the moral law?
Oh no, they do. The law has been etched on their heart. Now, whether they wish to acknowledge it or not is totally up to them. God gave them that free will. Hear, O Israel, Jehovah our God is one Jehovah. And thou shalt love Jehovah thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. They know God in their heart to exist. They know God loves them, and yet they choose to walk away from Him, from His commands, and the way He has designated them to live. I like Nadia. Nadia and I are friends. She thinks I hate her because of my stance on homosexuality. I don't hate her. No. I hate what he has done to his body, and now has tried to make it a woman, which it will never be. Again, she has denied the Creator and the creation of the Creator. The temple of God has been desecrated.
Which temple ye are?
See, even in Deuteronomy again it says, and these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. You know, think about us as parents. Did we teach our kids to love God? Do you think Nadia's parents taught her to love God? Well, you know what? I don't know much about anything but my own family, and I know I taught my kids to love God. I taught them that I love God. I didn't teach them just by saying, but by the way I live. Now, they have their free will to choose whether they accept that and run with that and do that or not. That's their choice. But I did every I could.
Right on. You just have to get Nadia to acknowledge objective morality so I can move on.
Well, that's easy. Ask her about her bank account. If there's objective right and wrong, well then her bank account should be evidence of that. If there's not, then she's got no complaint when the bank says she has a zero balance and she just deposited $1,000 in that account. See what I'm saying? If there is objective right or wrong, it's not just with morality. It's with everything that is absolutely right or absolutely wrong.
Mm-hmm. Objective truths, yeah. So Nadia doesn't think that anything is true. She just happens to just be fizzing in a particular manner. consistent with the laws, blind laws of nature.
Well, I'm going to say this right now. She's a complete, what's the word I'm looking for? A complete example about how she's denied the laws of nature, because she was created as a he, and now he has desecrated that temple and tried to make himself a herself. So yeah, the laws of nature,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the laws of nature have been completely thrown out the window.
Yeah, that's right. That's a hard thing to hear. I mean, I feel for him. It's a hard thing to hear. The truth, but the truth is the truth, whether you like it or not.
Truth, by its very nature, is exclusive. There is not my truth, your truth, their truth, his truth, her truth. There is only truth and everything that denies it. Truth, again, by its very nature, is exclusive. It doesn't matter if everybody agrees with it or nobody agrees with it. Truth will still be true, regardless of the number of people who agree with it or disagree with it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay, sorry. I was checking in with the other.
Like mathematics, Mathematics are real truths.
Absolutely.
In what sense? What sense do you mean real truth?
Like, I mean, like 2 + 2 = 4 is something that's objectively true. It's a real truth. Would you agree, Nadia?
I would adhere to a different philosophy of mathematics.
So you won't even admit that mathematics are true?
Mathematics are for mathematical objects are human constructs. And mathematics, I guess, itself is one as well. They are, inventing
Could 2 + 2
formalisms
= 5?
to assist with. Sorry.
Could 2 + 2 = 5?
Well, define 2, 2, and 5, right? Or sorry, define 2 plus and 2 plus equals and 5.
Define.
That is an interesting question.
Nadia, do you have any money in the bank?
Not anymore.
Okay. Do you owe people any money?
Yeah, a few million.
Okay. Who discerns that amount that you owe?
Oh, I know where this is going, and what you're doing is not going to help you.
No. You don't know where this is going because you don't have a clue. The fact is, who chooses how much you owe? Do they arbitrarily throw a number out at you and say you owe us $14 billion?
Can you even name the different philosophies of mathematics?
Ma'am, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm asking you a basic truth. A basic truth. Can you define who actually makes the call on how much you owe?
Can you even name the position within the philosophy of the mathematics that you're advocating?
Nadia, are you going to answer the question?
You don't even know what your own position. You don't even know what your own position is called.
I don't think he has to know the name of the philosophical position that he's trying to put forth or whatever to, still put it forth. That's not fair, I don't think.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't, but...
I'd like to know... Sorry. I'd like to know what he was trying to put forward, bringing up your debts like that.
Platonism.
Oh, yeah. Fritz.
And thinly veiled, or, well, not even veiled at all, insults along the way. But,
Well, yeah, they're thinly veiled. Fritz, what does it say about rich men in heaven?
Hardly shall a rich man enter heaven, or it's easier for a camel to go pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. Nevertheless, with God, anything is possible.
Well, I agree you think that. That was Jesus that said that.
Yeah, what's your point?
So what does that have anything to do with her beliefs?
You lost me, buddy. I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
well, there's also, I suppose, the
I'm sure where that's going.
ontological or other statuses of mathematics and such, which is essentially are the logically necessary and so on.
So you don't. I guess I'm just like at a total loss here. You don't believe anything's true, Nadia?
I believe that various forms of logic that people might use to reason are, well, formal devices embedded to assist reasoning and so on.
I don't even. You like lost me there. Can you just give me a yes or no if you believe there's anything is true or there's such thing as the truth? What is truth? Is that what you're just saying, basically, Pilot?
Ideas about logic, which give you essentially most of the time an assumed nature of truth or whatever. For instance, Aristotelian would assume bivalent, where Fuzzy would assume continuum, and Peric assistant would assume trivalent.
Are laws of logic true?
They are, in some way, operational assumptions and so on. One uses them as devices to, carry out effective reasoning to predict, to deduce, and so on.
So they may not be true?
Well, you're trying, Saitan Brigade bastardization of the tag. And the counter argument from its logical prong or one of the counter arguments against this logical prong is contrariety amongst various forms of logic, which raises, of course, philosophy of mathematics questions with respect to what the ontological status of mathematics is. Is it some kind of grand truth about the universe, or is it a mere human construct, and so on? I go with the mere human construct affair.
You need to put your very intelligent mind to work for God, Nadia, instead of the devil. You could do so much good.
I wouldn't want to work. Well, I would actually, be opposed to working for the devil, or consider myself in opposition to the devil, or whatever. But I don't think some kind of adversary, goes through some kind of, or carries out some kind of amor fati or whatever it is that ultimately somehow betters people or serves some purpose. So anyway, yeah, social constructivism is, pretty well understood, even if not widely adhered to. Position on the philosophy of mathematics. It does. It essentially asserts the same kind of things that I have. I mean, the integer, nature of the universe or whatever, so on, is not entirely consistent with observation. We have and especially in the quantum realm, quite a bit of things that are going on that don't follow a discrete model. There's in terms of sets and definite membership and exclusion and so on. We have trouble that in varying respects, things have membership only to a degree, and we don't actually witness the the intersection of what we call complements being null and so on. So it's, there's a lot that doesn't line up with the whole classical picture, and there's a lot that does. I mean, we haven't latched onto it as one of the more useful positions and so on because it's not useful. It's because we do get a lot of mileage out of it. It's just that it doesn't take us all the way home, and it's not some kind of sacred truth or anything like that. I think that's pretty clear, but who knows? Yeah, there's people are dredging up information theory, and I'd be getting called away to comment on that.
Give me a link.
Well, they're technical questions. Are you a proponent of intelligent design?
I am, certainly.
Oh, okay. Then they may very well be interested. I'll tell them I have an ID proponent, sure.
I might as well get out of here if I can't even convince you that anything's true.
Yeah. Give me 5 or 6 minutes here. Or sorry, not that long, but they need an ID proponent to back up Arcane. I don't know if you've met Arcane before.
I'll back him up. Let me in there.
Okay. Give me a minute or two.
So I guess I just give up on Nadia because I've been trying for weeks to convince her that even the truth exists. But I mean, as far as I can tell, Nadia doesn't believe there is any truth. There's no meaning. There's just, like, as Dawkins would say, just blind, pitiless indifference. As far as I can tell, that's the whole sum of her position, and I just would encourage people to consider, between that or between ultimate assurance of eternity in heaven with the Lord Jesus. You can make a choice just based on those two things right there. Which I guess preferring something to be true doesn't necessarily make it true, but we could move on to proving that the latter is true later. First, you just can make the decision just out of faith, as millions have, and then as you look into things and research things and dive into it, that position becomes more and more firm and more solid. And the more you study the Bible, the more true it becomes to you in multiple ways, and the more you're able to see that every word in it is true, and that God is true, and Jesus Christ saves. So That or blind, pitiless indifference. Let's see.
One sec. I'll be back to you. I try not to, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I try not to Bible thump people too much, with my beliefs. I think some people sort of automatically take offense to that if they're atheists.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that position, but I believe now that the Bible is our sword, and it's the Word of God, and it has the power to save. And Paul reasoned from the Scriptures, and Jesus reasoned from the Scriptures. And so, personally, I've taken it as my position, as the strongest position I have is to reason from the Scriptures, just like Paul did. So.
Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, like I said, I'm not an atheist. I know it does bother some atheists, and they use that a lot against people. They use the term Bible thumping, and I know some people take that offense. And if they do take the offense to it, it's harder to get somebody to see your point of view. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to talk to people in their own sort of language.
Yeah, it's definitely, you have to approach people from different sort of angles depending on where they're at.
Yeah.
I'm going to check out this other link here and see if I can come to the rescue of some fellow young Earth creationists.
Good luck with that.
Are you going to head over there, Jeff, or are you sticking around here? I'm going to try this double fisting, as Nadia calls it.
What's this? I don't even know where it's at. Did you put a link, or is there a link somewhere?
Yeah, it's just in the side there.
In the side?
In the side chat.
Or it's not in the outside chat?
No, it's just right on the right-hand side there.
Let me see. I don't see it on here.
Jeff, you need to activate it. You need to go up to the upper left. You'll see a blue icon that looks like a...
I see all the chats and everything, but that link is gone.
Oh.
I hit it, see it's off now. I see all the chats in there. I even put a link in there. But that...
Right, sorry.
If you put a link in the side chat here, it didn't show up on mine. Is there a date on it when she put the link?
I have no idea. It looks like...
I mean a time,
Yeah. Fritz left, unfortunately, so he had the link. I wish he would have shared it again.
Maybe it's on the outside chat. I'll have to look.
Yeah.
Whose hangout is it?
Oh, well, here's... I think it was Nadia's, right?
I don't know.
I see a link here, but that was at 7 o'clock. That was a long time ago, so that can't be it. That's in the other chat. That's, the outside chat? No, it's not there. Huh, wonder why I don't see it in there. Yeah, I don't even, well, no, she's still there. That's right. She's still technically there, so it didn't say she left. You still see her, like she's still in the chat here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding was she created this. I saw a notification around 4 o'clock this evening, and it was supposed to be dedicated to the topic of, free will, and I can't remember the other term. I thought it was like a religious term, something like that.
Yeah, I don't see it back up there again, yeah.
And then, the topic kind of wound down a while ago, and she's been participating in another chat at the same time for a bit. I don't know.
I hate to hit refresh.
But she said
I was getting a little window. You know how how when this Hangout you see a black image here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I was getting this little. It was up in the corner here. It was another page. It kept popping up and pop in and out, in and out, in and out. And it kept doing it. Now it's quit.
Hmm.
It was really strange. Like another Hangout was trying to show up.
Right.
But it was a little tiny one. It was only about a fourth of the size of this up in the corner. I'm double fisting Hangout. Oh, she just chatted with that. Oh, he said link, please. You know, who's that? Oh, yeah, you. Yeah. Well, do you see the link? Do you see it?
No, but I left the chat for a while and watched it streaming, and then I rejoined when you guys started talking about objective morality.
Yeah, well, I don't see the link on here. That's why I said no. I don't see it. So you're seeing pretty much. You see a chat on there, though, popping up.
Yeah, I see the chat.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
I just don't see. So when I renewed my connection, I lost all the previous comments. I only see Nadia's comment. That's it.
Right. Yeah, but you still don't see the chat that she put up. Or I mean the link. I mean, yeah. Yeah. When I come off here and come back, yeah, I don't know why all the chat disappears. I don't understand that. Why it does that. When I come back, if I hit F5 or whatever and come back, all the chat's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nadia. There it is. I don't know what it's about.
Oh, she put the link up?
Yeah.
Let's see, I don't see it.
Really? Well, here, let me try posting it. Let me see if I can copy it and post it. I wonder what is up with that. That is very strange.
Yeah, I don't see the link. I see her. She just said I'm double fisting Hangouts. Yeah, now I see it from you.
Yeah.
But I did not see it from her.
Oh, I see. For some reason, all right, I might have made a mistake. I guess maybe that's a private. Maybe I don't know whether that means we're invited or not. So I think if she shared that privately with me, but not with the group.
Oh, okay.
That's why you didn't see it.
Well, then I won't even go there then.
Yeah, and it's all right. I mean, it says that she said that they're almost full in the other Hangout, anyways. So.
Yeah, well.
I think I'll just wrap it up here then. But it was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Sorry I didn't get to talk with you, SoCal.
Oh, that's all right.
So as I mentioned, I just was kind of watching and was interested in the topic to see how it went. So there was a bit of a discussion earlier on the topic of free will and its relation to Christianity, Christian belief, and justifications within the Bible, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw the objective morality portion, and then that's why I asked Nadia for the link and jumped in to see